alliance and let them blow him away with the Death Star. No Brits was involved, no fingers could be pointed.
You carry on taking the medication, George. Yes, I'd send all the Labour government to space with a one-way ticket and throw in the SNP for being useless. They're all a bunch of... Oh, all right, fair enough.
One person, quite frankly, I think needs to go to space in a one-way journey is Jeremy Kyle. He goes on about his age one more time, how he's 60 this year, he was 59 last year, repetitively over the course of the weeks and months. We have to hear him, I'm 60 this year, I'm 60 this year.
Richard Tice, did you put that cheeky bugger up to that?
I'm hoping he's going to send me the invoice because that was absolutely brilliant.
Which MP would you send to space?
Oh, no, I'll get in terrible trouble if I answer that. But it's fair to say there's quite a long list.
The sad thing is about sending people into space on a one-way ticket is I don't think that we've built a spaceship big enough to take the lunatics off this planet. I mean, from the net zero loonies to the transgender loonies to the racists to the terrorists, there is just so much to the wokerati. We need some big spaceships.
Big spaceships.
Good evening. I never know how you're going to start this conversation, Jeremy.
Katy Perry went to space today, OK? Who would you send... I'd love her to say what I wanted to, but I'd never disrespect her. Who would you send to space who could never come back?
Well, I'd be happy to send Ed Miliband to space, I think.
Oh, that is an outrageous question to I'm not even going to answer that question.
Sam Matterface, so you get the job, yeah? Come on.
No, Sam Matterface, I tell you what, says no.
I think David Lamb would be the person I'd want to send up in space and never come back again.
Yeah, the problem is how much would the bill be for him to munch through whatever food on the way there?
Hey, it worked.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Just imagine this, right? 3 minutes past 6. A very good morning to you, by the way. Morning, Glory, with me, Mike Graham. Reem Ibrahim is here as well. Very good morning to you, Reem. Nice to see you. The sun is blazing in. Look at that beautiful sunrise. Right? It's actually really a beautiful Friday. It is Friday the 22nd of August. It is a bank holiday weekend. Coming up, the Notting Hill Carnival will be with us in the next few days, where no doubt people will actually be not only kettled, not only, you know, harassed and robbed, but probably killed as well. But don't worry, because Sadiq Khan thinks it's a really interesting cultural phenomenon, and we'll keep doing it. And in fact, not only that, but taxpayers were giving more money to make sure that they get policed properly. So we'll be talking about that coming up. Also, of course, on the front pages this morning, lots and lots of people saying things about migrant hotel protests. The Times has got hotel for migrants face a wave of protests coming up at the weekend. And Britain is facing an autumn of discontent, according to the Daily Telegraph. People are pretty pissed off. I'm just going to say it. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologise now. I know it's only 3 minutes past 6 in the morning, but I think you can probably handle it. You're grown-ups. You're not going to complain to Ofcom. You're not going to say, oh, Mike Graham said a swear word, bad word. No, people are pissed off about the fact that they can't actually do what it is that they want to do. Front page of the Daily Mail, all-time high for asylum claims. We revealed this just before the end of the show yesterday. 111,000 migrants claimed asylum last year. Not all of them came on small boats. And guess how many were sent back who didn't actually qualify to be allowed to stay here? 2,330. So by my calculation, that means that there's roughly 109,000 or so, maybe call it 108,000 if you want, more people living here now than there were last year. Some of them may be cycling around on bikes even as we speak. Some of them may be delivering your breakfast even as we speak, but they shouldn't be here. they should be sent home. And we know that every single migrant hotel now is under fire because it could be that after the Epping decision, none of them have got permission to actually operate as hotels because they're not actually hotels. And also on the front page is Lucy Connelly, freed after 377 days in jail for tweeting about the Southport attack. The Daily Mail says they've got the inside story of Lucy Connelly's prison torment. They haven't actually got the inside story of her prison torment, but they will probably pay her a great deal of money to actually talk about what it is that she went through. Front page of The Sun is the same. Right tweet Lucy free after a year in jail away from her daughter, who's only 12 years old, and the headline says, Mum's home. And thank God she is home, but what on earth is wrong with this country? They're locking up people like Lucy Connelly while rapists, masked murderers, you know, and people who commit terrible, terrible crimes are walking around because there's no room for them in prison, apparently. 0344 499 1000, 5 minutes past 6. It is bank holiday weekend, as I say. There's going to be all sorts of mayhem on the roads, all sorts of mayhem on the trains, no doubt in the air as well if you're trying to fly anywhere. But we will keep you calm and we'll give you a bunch of gaffs as well, just to cheer you up throughout the course of the morning. We've got a great one from Eamon Holmes from GB News, by the way, so I want you to look forward to that. 0344 499 1000. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. As if by magic the music stopped. Reem Ibrahim, very good to see you. Look at the sun.
Morning.
How can you not have a beautiful kind of outlook on life if you look out there and go, the sun is shining, the sky's high, you know, the clouds are above it. It's wonderful.
Agree. This morning I was looking at the sky and I just thought, isn't the world still, despite all of the mayhem, isn't the world just so beautiful?
It is. It is. And I think you have to remember that, you know, because there are things that somehow are existential, and they're above all the political problems that we live in. And when you know, I know you travel quite a lot. You know, suddenly you walk out on a beach in northern Africa, or you walk out on a beach into the southern Mediterranean, and you just go, what a beautiful world we live in.
Isn't it so great? Beautiful. But also, I'm always reminded by how much I love this country when I leave the city. Yeah. And you go to, my family love going down to Bournemouth. Yeah. You know, when you go down to Bournemouth in the summer and you go down the beach, and my younger sister is running around.
Mind you, hang on, I have to say, Bournemouth is not what it was. Because when you go to Bournemouth now, it's overrun with migrants, I'm told.
That is true. I mean, I was there over the summer for a weekend, and it was lovely, gorgeous. Right. But you are right. I mean, it is a shame, actually. This is what we want to protect, isn't it? It's the real natural beauty. Yeah. And despite the horrendousness that's going on politically in the UK, you can't but love London, and you can't but love the British culture as a whole. And I think every time you leave the city, anytime you leave a city overall, you end up coming to the countryside, you see really what is beautiful, beautiful Britain.
Yes. Well, according to the Daily Telegraph, it's going to get a lot worse. They say Britain is facing an autumn of discontent, which is likely to have a whole bunch of strikes that disrupt crucial services across the country. And so this is a kind of combination story of not just people being fed up with the government, but also unions basically saying, we're actually going to go on strike. The RMT, who are, of course, the railway union, announced yesterday that commuters will endure a week of industrial action on London Underground at the start of next month. Those look set to be followed by a month of walkouts across the public sector, including GPs, resident doctors and nurses, and who else is going to be on strike?
Call them what they are, junior doctors.
Junior doctors. I don't call them resident doctors. They can stick that right up with Jaxie, right? I'm calling them junior doctors. Meanwhile, strikes have already hit the public in Birmingham. Bin collection still not going on. And so it's going to be pretty miserable for an awful lot of people in the coming months, right?
It is going to be
How useless is this government, by the way? I haven't seen you for a while. How useless are they?
Insanely useless. I mean, what's interesting is, of course, the government handed up about £10 billion in public sector pay, and we're expected to lose about 280,000 working days as a result of these strikes. It's really interesting, I think, because of the politics of the Labour Party. Obviously, they are funded by unions, right? Let's be very clear about this.
Absolutely.
The Labour Party are funded by unions, and therefore they are significantly less likely to sort of harshly say to them, you know what, you guys need to relax, you need to realise that actually we have spent huge amounts of money on public sector pay. Right. Now, of course, the difference is between a business and the government is that in a business, if you don't like your job, you're unhappy with your pay, you're unhappy with your working conditions, you can just go and find another job in that same industry.
And if you're running a business and you suddenly decide, oh, we're not making any money, you actually have to try and figure out how to make some money. Whereas in government, in government, you have to go, well, we're not making any money, we'll just borrow more money from somebody, or we'll just tax people a load more, and we'll try and raise some money that way.
I'm really worried about this, actually, just more broadly, Mike, because we are probably going to see tax rises again this year because we have to. I mean, the government basically have no other way of financing the current huge amounts of money. Of course, they're paying huge amounts of money on debt interest.
Why won't they find some money by firing a load of civil servants? Why can't they get rid of them?
Well, I would go further than that. I mean, basically, the differences between like Doge that occurred in the US, where they cut public spending by basically just sacking a load of government servants, and obviously what happened is nothing because they weren't doing anything in the first place. But what I prefer is the Javier Milei Argentinian style of afuera. Because what you actually do is
you get the old chainsaw out.
Exactly, you get the chainsaw out, because the difference, instead of just, you know, firing a bunch of people that work for the government, in Argentina what they've done is actually reduce what the state does. So instead of saying, you know what, I'm just going to sack some people in these different government departments, obviously with, you know, US aid, they've done particularly well at just basically removing all of that waste of government money and taxpayer money fundamentally. But what we could do is reduce the size of the state by reducing what the state does. So, do we need a Department for Culture, Media and Sport?
Probably not.
No, I would
What does
honestly,
Lisa Nandy actually do, who is the Minister for Culture, Media and Sport?
I would completely abolish the entire department. Because why does it exist?
And
I mean, other than for the BBC.
How many people work there? Probably thousands,
right? Oh, God. And the fact that the government need to sort of have a cultural policy, I think, is ridiculous. Like, culture comes from the people. You don't need Sir Keir Starmer and the Labour government telling us what British culture is and what that looks like.
And also, they don't really do anything, do they?
No, they don't.
Mean, all they do is occasionally haul in people from the BBC and say, why are you so useless? And the BBC people go, well, we are just useless because we are working for the BBC. And that's it, right?
So
any chance of getting Hugh Edwards' money back? No, sorry. Thanks for it. Come back in 6 months.
I mean, I'm against the BBC as a sort of a state broadcaster, but even so, even if you kept the BBC as a state broadcaster, you don't need an entire department to run one news channel. You can have the BBC as a completely separate entity, and you can basically get rid of the rest of it. The football regulator, I mean, why is that happening?
We don't need a football regulator.
I mean, literally, English football is like the best in the world. The idea that because something's so great in this country, we then want to introduce a regulator. Why? Why do we need that? We don't need that at all. So I basically abolished that department. So I think that it's interesting when it comes to the wider perspective on the way that the UK economy is going. I think that what we need to do is just reduce the size of the state. But we need radical ideas to reduce the size of the state. We need people to actually think about what the government should be doing. One example, I think, which is really interesting, when you're looking at a graph like what the government actually spends money on, a lot of it is on welfare, and a lot of it is on the National Health Service, on healthcare. The NHS is an enormous expense to British taxpayers. Part of it is because of the ageing population, of course, higher spending costs on healthcare.
Isn't it? It doesn't work.
But it's absolutely useless. If you try to get a GP appointment, it's absolutely
I've given up.
impossible.
I have not used the NHS. I promise you, for about the best part of the last 7 years. You know, if I do have a reasonable need to go and see a doctor, I just go private doctor. Luckily, in London, we're in good shape. There's a place just down the road called the London Clinic, and you can go and check in. There's about 7 different offices.
And you can get them quite cheap as well. I mean,
they're not that expensive. I've got health insurance. It costs me 20 quid to go and see them, you know, and I see them straight away, and they give me whatever it is that I need, and it's a perfectly good system.
We spend just below £200 billion a year on the National Health Service.
I know.
And I think
the lefties always say, oh, but, you know, it's underfunded. You know,
it's not underfunded.
Small favour.
The biggest.
Complete.
Honestly, Mike, but this is one of the biggest lies.
Please don't tell me it's underfunded.
One of the biggest lies that the left have been peddling over the last few has been about the NHS and saying that it's underfunded. It's not. Now, the Telegraph story talking about strikes, I think, is really important because when we're talking public services, you know, the difference between a business and the government is that, you know, if you're unhappy in your job in a business, you know, you just change jobs or you find another offer in the industry. The government is the only place you can go. If you're a doctor, the only place you can be employed for, within the healthcare system in the UK, other than in private clinics, is the National Health Service, right? There isn't a competitive market.
But then these bozos want to go on strike. These junior doctors who now want to be called resident doctors because apparently it sounds more important.
But they've
already had one 5-day strike. They're going to have more 5-day strikes as we go forward throughout the course of the summer and the rest of the winter.
And they've already had a 22% pay rise.
Yes.
22% they had, and they are. It's never enough. I was on another news channel talking about this, debating this with a junior doctor, and he insisted on being called a resident doctor. And
I hope you didn't do that.
I know, I said you're a junior doctor. But I did say to him, I said, well, where's this going to end? Because last year you guys said 22%, you got the 22% off from the government, and that was it. And now you're striking again this year. So where's it going to end? If the government gives you another payoff now, will you guarantee that you're never going to strike again?
Right.
And he didn't obviously say that, right?
No, because they can't. And the same with the RMC. ASLEF, the train drivers, are given 15%, which is also massively above the rates of inflation. And now they're coming back for more. The RMC going, well the ASLEF got 15%. We haven't had a pay rise since they got that. So it's just a big circular kind of,
Let me tell you how we solved this.
Circle jerk, if you want to.
I'll tell you how we solved this. We need a competitive market in healthcare. So basically what the Europeans have, one thing that the Europeans actually do better than us is healthcare, because they have an actual competitive market. Insurance-based systems, social insurance-based systems. I think the Netherlands is a really fantastic example of that, where you have a competitive market. Patients get to choose where they get their healthcare from without the government telling them what they can and cannot do. The government do guarantee a minimum package that everybody gets, but what you have is effectively a market where you can choose. In the same way when it comes to food, you choose what supermarket you go to.
Exactly.
You can do the same with healthcare in a competitive market system. It means that the insurance providers have an incentive to ensure that your healthcare is actually fantastic.
So they
it's
do
of great
their jobs
quality.
properly,
They do their jobs properly, because if they don't, you will go somewhere else. That's the beauty of capitalism, the beauty of the market.
And in France, apparently, what happens is with the GP system is that you get paid as a GP depending on how many people you actually see, as opposed to how many people you've got on a list. Because in this country, of course, you get paid as a GP depending on how many people you've got registered to come to your clinic. Whereas in France, it's like, no, we will pay you per actual visit that you see, the people that you actually help.
Is that another opinion I have about GPs? I think they're a massive, massive waste of time. I mean, the fact that GP appointments are basically taken up by people with various different ailments, but GPs have basically lobbied against people called physician associates. Now, physician associates are sort of trained at the same level as nurses. You can be paying them basically the same level as what nurses are being paid, and of course they're able to treat most things. Most things that you go to GPs for do not need to be treated by somebody with a medical degree, right? You don't need a doctor, a literal medical doctor, for basically 90% of things that you go to.
And also, for a lot of people, they know precisely what they need as a remedy, because they go, look, I had this last year, I need these antibiotics to get it. And they'll go, oh, no, we can't give you those.
A doctor doesn't need to prescribe these things. A nurse level can do that. But
anyway, listen, we've got to stop this, because it's a great conversation. However, it's got nothing to do with what's in the papers.
I know.
So let's talk about what's in the papers. Let's talk about Lucy Connelly, because front page of the Sun, right to tweet Lucy free after a year. This poor woman has been in jail for over a year, right? She's finally been freed. She was home yesterday to spend time for the first time in a year with her 12-year-old daughter, who's been traumatised by her mother being sent away, and her husband, who's suffering from cancer. I mean, this story is quite remarkable, and it proves to me that Keir Starmer is cruel. Keir Starmer is an absolute and utter disgrace of a man, because he could have let her loose a lot earlier, couldn't he?
This story really upsets me. I mean, when Lucy first went to prison, I thought about writing her a letter, because I was just so upset about it. But it's really important, I think, to remember that freedom of expression also means that we protect freedom of expression that we might not like. And what Lucy tweeted was not very nice.
No.
But at the end of the day, if we believe in freedom of expression...
But it wasn't the end of the world either, was it?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't actually that bad.
Because everybody says that, and I know you have to say it, because everybody feels like they have to say, well, what she said wasn't very nice and we can't endorse it.
Well, it wasn't nice. Look, we can be honest, it wasn't nice.
It's not the worst thing anybody's ever said,
No,
is it?
I mean, I've probably said worse, right?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I've definitely said worse. The thing is, right, she saw what was going on with the Southport killings. any mother, anybody, any human being would see what happened where you see 8-year-old girls being murdered. I mean, you know,
brutally killed, right?
At a Taylor Swift themed dance class. I mean, anybody with an ounce of humanity would feel disgusted by that story.
Of course.
As Lucy did. She posted a tweet in a fit of anger.
In anger,
3.5 hours later,
totally
she deleted
understandable, right?
the tweet. She deleted the post 3.5 hours later.
And I think I'm right in saying, that it was only seen by 26 people. It wasn't even like, you know, 50,000 people suddenly saw it. It wasn't like retweeted by me or anybody who's got a lot of followers. You know, it was not seen by that many people anyway.
I'm not sure. I think what's important to note is that what Lucy said in that context was the reaction of basically millions of people across the country. She spoke for so many people, and she was just a regular lady, a regular mother with a 12-year-old daughter. She's also lost another kid. I mean, you know, really, really normal family in the UK, and anybody feels that way. And being sentenced to 31 months in prison was the most outrageous thing that could possibly happen. I basically think, and you know, Lucy's one case, she's a microcosm for the problem, which is we do not have free speech in this country. We have effectively taken that right away because the government have intervened in so many different instances. I think Alison Pearson from The Telegraph has been really fantastic on this. She was obviously issued with a non-crime hate incident where the government are investigating people without with those particular issues, and what they are saying is that, you know, hate speech is speech that causes psychological harm. Of course, psychological harm is entirely subjective. So we have to be very clear about this. My position is freedom of expression should happen no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. If you are a human being, you have the fundamental right to say whatever you like, whenever you like, without the government taking those rights away. And that includes, by the way, speech we don't like. I was having this argument with other people on the right that were saying, you know what? These pro-Palestine marches need to be banned. And I was saying, if you believe in freedom of expression, it's not just for people that we don't like. It's not just people that we like. It's also for people that we don't like. Well, freedom of expression means defending the most grotesque and disgusting opinions because we have to ensure that those freedoms are being protected. And what happened to Lucy was an absolute disgrace.
Well, I said the same thing about Ricky Jones, you know, the guy who did the old cutthroat thing, and people were going, he should be locked up in prison. No, he shouldn't be locked up in prison. He should not be. He should be walking free in the same way that Lucy Connelly should never have been prosecuted. Both of those cases should be people who can say whatever they want and they can walk around freely in this country because we supposedly are a civilised nation.
We need a constitution. We need a constitution like the Americans have. I think so. Because, I mean, I've spoken to a lot of my American friends about this, and what they have is so many campaign organisations that, I mean, you know, we have the Free Speech Union. They have campaign organisations that are actually able to use the Constitution to defend freedom of expression. There's an organisation called FIRE, which look at free speech on campuses, and they're suing the American government because under the Trump administration, there are students that have been arrested for writing opinion pieces that are pro-Palestine. And what they've done is they have said, no, freedom of expression is a fundamental right that is entrenched in the Constitution. We are going to defend that. And they're probably going to win this case because freedom of expression...
Because in America they actually do have freedom of expression.
Because they have a constitution.
They do,
Britain desperately needs a constitution that enshrines individual liberty. And one of those individual liberties are the right to freedom of expression.
I couldn't agree with you more. We've got so much more to talk about, not just Lucy Connelly, but all sorts of other things on the front pages, including, of course, the migrant protests, which are going to be going on over the course of this weekend. It's a bank holiday weekend. Reem Ibrahim is here from the IEA. There's so much more to talk about. We're not sure we've got enough time, but it's 23 minutes past 6. This is, of course, the home of common sense and the home of free speech, and we try our best not to get arrested for some of the things that we say. This is Talk.
I mean, I think it could, because ultimately, you know, despite what she did being and what she said, well, what she typed, you know, she wasn't on a soapbox, you know, outside one of these migrant hotels. What she typed on social media was vile, reprehensible, aggressive, ugly, all the rest of it. Yeah. But I think a jury, she would have had a much better chance of people saying, right, this is a mother.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 6:26. The sun is shining. It's Friday morning. It is a beautiful, beautiful weekend. It's bank holiday weekend, in fact. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to cheer you up. Reem Abraham's here. And, of course, she's full of the joys of spring. Absolutely bursting with ideas and telling us what we should be doing and how we should be living. But let's just make fun of ourselves, shall we? Because one of the things we do on a Friday is to play some gaffs, things that have gone a bit wrong throughout the course of the week. Here's Johnny Gould screwing something up.
Well, if I could wish for one thing, it would be inheriting a huge audience from a grateful British public. It's thanks to Mark Dolan for 3 excellent hours here on Talk, and a warm welcome. My name is Johnny, and I'm here until 1 o'clock here on Talk. It's been a brilliant, brilliant day, hasn't it, for diplomacy. Meanwhile, oh, my mic's fallen off. Oh, that's a good start, isn't it? Yeah, I told you I needed a bit of help here. Hang on now, just see what I can do. I'm not going to blow into it. Dear, oh dear. Dear, oh dear, Richard. Here we go. I tell you what, could you hear me before? Was it worth it? And now my earpiece has fallen out. Good start. Hey, welcome along to the show. It's Johnny here in the chair for Petrie. Bet you're wishing she was here, right? I'm here until 1 o'clock. The only game in town is diplomacy, and that is going on at the White House.
I mean, one rule of journalism and broadcasting is make sure you've got a microphone on and make sure it actually works. Make sure you've actually got it in the right place. Johnny, come on, man. You've been doing it for 20 years.
I love Johnny. He's so adorable.
I know,
He's
but
so
how
cute.
is he
No,
so
there's something really
though?
sweet about, like, you know, I can't find my mic. It's like, oh.
I know, it's not good. It's absolutely not good. Let's get a voice note from Lee.
Morning, Mike. It's Lee. 2 Tiers still in Scotland. Being such an avid music fan, you thought he'd be back for the Coldplay concert. Anyway, can you imagine? You're a small business in Scotland. You're struggling to make ends meet. You're wondering when the next tax rises are coming. And then Starmer turns up snooping about. I mean, you wouldn't let him in. It'd be like the time he visited that pub in Bath. Do you remember the guy going crazy at him? Get that man out of this pub. Anyway, play the clip, Mike. All the best.
Yeah, we will play the clip. I think we've got it. Get out of my pub. Get that man out of my pub. Have a look.
Man is not allowed in my pub. No, Lord. I'm not going to physically hurt him. That man... That's assault. I am not bothering you. I am not bothering him. That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub. Calm down. Sorry. Thank you.
Calm down. Yeah, brilliant. Do you remember, I mean, the good old days when people had to wear masks here to pubs?
Oh, God.
I mean, for heaven's sake.
Ridiculous.
God, save us.
I completely agree with Lee. I mean, if you're a business in the UK, you're really struggling. You've got the employers' national insurance contributions increases. You've got huge regulations that are coming into play which make it impossible to hire anybody. No wonder why vacancies are declining. If you are anybody in this country with an ounce of ambition, is being crushed by this government.
And many people are leaving the country. You know, I hear from people all the time, and they're not just, you know, non-doms, they're not just people who've got loads of money. I hear from loads of parents who say, my kids have just come out of university, or they were going to go to university, but actually they're now just deciding to go to Australia, or they're going to go to Thailand, or Japan, Portugal, Dubai, America. They're just going.
Yeah. Yesterday I celebrated a friend moving to Dubai, and I remember thinking, you know, these are people in their 20s that are, you know, successful. They are, you know, they all will come from like similar backgrounds where they all just want to work hard and be rewarded for that hard work.
And make some money,
And make some money. But, you know, we're not talking about people that, you know, are non-doms, as you said, that, you know, come from really, really wealthy families. These are normal people. And what they've done is, you know what, I've worked really hard. I studied really hard at school. I got myself a degree. I did everything that I was told I should be doing, right? I did everything that I was told I should do. And I can't do any of those things in the UK because I can't be successful because the economy isn't growing, because the government want to literally take every single penny that I work for.
And they can't afford to buy a house, presumably, because the house prices are completely
because they refuse to build any housing because the government regulate everything so ridiculously. Net zero is part of it. All of the environmental regulations make it extraordinarily difficult to do anything in this country. And so if you're in your 20s, you're like, you know what? I've not got any kids. I'm not married yet. I'm just going to go to Dubai, where there's no income tax, where it's safer, significantly safer. It's interesting, we were joking about how, you know, obviously ethnic displacement in the UK and how that's happening. And I said, listen, I'm Arab. You lot are all coming down to the Middle East. You know, you all want to come over to where I'm from. And it's so important to remember that it's basically economics. I mean, I really do think that a lot of things boil down to the economics of it. And when you're being crushed continuously by the state, when you're being told...
The other thing as well is that, you know, if there's no reason for you to stay where you are, you'll just move. Why wouldn't you? You know?
I mean, it's sad though.
It's not even if you're being crushed. It's just as though you just say to yourself, you know, what's the difference? What's the problem? Why wouldn't I go and make my fortune somewhere else?
And it's extremely sad because, I mean, I can't bear to see Britain in decline. I love this country so much. Britain has so many amazing things about it. We were just talking earlier about the gorgeous countryside, going down to the beach. Britain's coastline is beautiful. There is so much to love about Britain. I love this country and I cannot bear to see it in decline. But it is in decline.
But it is in decline,
I'm in Gen
and it's
Z.
being ruined. It's being ruined by this government.
Well, not just this government, but every government over the last 50 years. I mean, I am in Gen Z. I have never experienced the British economy growing. Nobody my age has experienced a growing economy. That's insane when you really think about it. When you compare us to countries like the US, if we were to join the US and become the 51st state, we'd be the poorest state. Mississippi is the poorest state in the US and it is wealthier than us. We cannot underestimate how poor Britain actually is.
Because we've got too many people who don't do anything. We've got 9 million people who are basically economically inactive in this country for whatever reason.
Of the population.
You know, this is too big. It's too
fantastic.
Big.
I wrote a piece to speak about this.
Cut the cord and just go, look, sorry guys, I'm afraid if you can't get a job within the next year, you're not going to get any more money.
The problem is, if you are on incapacity benefits, so you're on like universal credit for disability, and you're receiving personal independence payments, you're getting PIP, you are earning more than the minimum wage. So why would you work? I don't blame those people, I blame the system. Why would you work when you can earn more money on benefits when you're literally... And also, by the way, if you're on if you're getting child benefits, not if you've got kids, you're on about £27,000 a year.
And then we look at the front pages this morning, all-time high for asylum claims. This is a piece of information we had yesterday, just before we ended the show. Labour last night accused of losing control of Britain's borders. Asylum claims have soared to an all-time high. 111,000 have come here in the last year, and only 2,300 or so have been actually sent back. Official statistics say that basically the massive total surpassed the peak of 103,000 in 2002, which happened under, of course, Tony Blair's regime back in the beginning of the century. So, you know, we've got a massive problem in this country. People are coming here and just taking the mickey out of us, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a real shame. I'm very, very pro-immigration. I think immigration is fantastic for this country when...
It's fantastic if it's proper immigration and people coming here. I told this story the other day. I've got a personal trainer these days because that's how rich I am. And the guy's from Latvia. He's come into this country and he's building...
What have you been doing? You've been doing some weights?
Yeah, lifting weights, you know, going to the gym twice. Not really running. No, I don't really run. But I've lost 2 stone.
I don't run. How preposterous.
No,
what
ridiculous.
A preposterous accusation.
Exactly. But this guy, right, is the absolute epitome of what immigration should be. He's come into this country. He's been here for about 15 years. He came in originally, worked for the police. And he's now running his own business. He's also running about 3 other businesses. He's trying to make money as much as he can. And he is the absolute kind of the be-all and end-all of what we should be doing, attracting people from other countries to come here and create wealth. But what we don't want is people coming here who are not coming here to create wealth, and we know very well that most of the people coming here now seeking asylum are not creating any wealth at all. In fact, they're a drain on the state.
Because they're not allowed to work. I mean, basically,
no, it's not. No, it's not that they're not allowed to work.
Part of it is when you're on the asylum system.
No, I'm not having that. It's not that they're not allowed to work. Because many of them work in the black market, you know, and they work driving around Deliveroo bikes.
They're in the illegal market because they're not allowed to work anywhere else.
No, but Reem, even if they did work, they're only working in minimum wage jobs, you know, doing absolutely, you know, hopelessly, you know, unprofitable work.
I'm fine with that. Like, I'm fine with that. Basically what I don't want is taxpayers, British taxpayers, footing the bill for migration.
Yeah.
And that's basically my problem with this. So I'm fine with, I disagree with you, I'm fine with people coming to the UK and taking jobs that Brits don't want to do, like, you know, the fruit picking, right? I'm fine with that. I don't care. What I don't want, and what I am completely
if they don't bring
against...
5 members of their family with them, though.
But that's the point.
And then pick fruit, and then you've got to supply benefits to the rest of the family.
So exactly that, right? That's the point. I just don't want them to be able to receive benefits. And I think that most people would agree with me when we say, you know what, immigration, in some instances, is really, really fantastic when they're able to work and contribute. Your Latvian personal trainer is one example of that. But the problem is the government have supplied huge amounts of money, taxpayer money, British taxpayer money, that's footing the bill for migration. So when you have hotels being paid for by taxpayers,
billions of pounds a year,
literally billions of pounds a year, and also the fact that they're able to get massages and they're able to get... Oh, no, it's not a benefit at all. That's the point. So I love immigration. I think immigration is great when we are not footing the bill for it. The problem is British taxpayers are footing the bill for high levels of immigration. And I also think my kind of theory about migration in the UK is that the reason why we have such awful cultural integration, I mean, we have basically ghettos in the UK at the moment. The reason for that is because the government have supplied huge amounts of money to these people. They're getting social housing, they're getting council housing paid for by the taxpayer.
They're going ahead of on the list as well.
Ahead of Brits.
A lot of. I'll tell you what else is happening.
They've lived there all their lives.
A lot of things that are happening now, like for example, the new housing that's being built around the country, and I've seen this for myself in the southeast, down in Kent and down in Sussex, is that you get a whole new build kind of setup where you've got maybe, I don't know, 50 homes being built, and a third of those homes are going to social housing, but the social housing isn't going to ordinary British people, it's going to immigrants.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? And if you're a migrant, you are obviously going to be attracted to that.
Yeah.
Why are these people leaving France? Obviously English culture is part of it, obviously the language is part of it. I think a huge part of it is British taxpayers being taken for fools because they are footing the bill for huge amounts of people. Now,
and nobody's asked us.
No, exactly. I think immigration can be fantastic when they are paying their own way, and I think the Americans have this down to a T. If you're an illegal migrant in the US, you are not entitled to a single penny of social security.
No.
You don't get any benefits whatsoever. If you want to go to America, you can go there and you have to work. And if you have any dependents, you have to pay for them too.
Yeah.
And they're not entitled to a single one little penny. They don't get anything. And I think that actually migration wouldn't be such a huge problem in the UK if we just completely cold turkey cut every single penny of benefit that any of them get, because if you have not worked your entire life, you don't get a single penny.
No.
If we did that,
I think that's fair.
How many people would come on boats?
They wouldn't, because they would know that actually it would be.
How many people
quite
overstay
tough.
their tourist visas?
None of them.
They wouldn't, because
No.
and even if they did, I don't care, because we're not paying for it.
Yeah.
That's the problem. People are angry, and rightfully so, when their businesses are closing down because the government have made things so extraordinarily difficult. When the government are taking half of your money, to foot the bill for an enormous state. I mean, the government is public spending as a portion
Far
of
too
GDP
big.
is 44%,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
When that is happening, and you're footing the bill for these people, of course you're going to feel angry. But I don't think immigration itself as a concept is the problem. I think the problem is the government forcing British taxpayers to foot the bill.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more. Let's get a voice note from Mark on Lucy Connelly.
Hi, Mike. It's Mark in Blind Arrow. One of the things the Lucy Connelly case shows up is this ridiculous unelected quango that's the committee that decides on these sentencing guidelines. Stuffed full of the lefty liberals and the woke, they somehow think it's appropriate to set a sentencing guideline of years in prison for writing words on the internet. Mate, we've got to get rid of them. The whole system needs overhauling.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's Gaff Prone Friday, so we're going to try and keep your spirits up by giving you something to laugh about. This is Eamon Holmes on what can only be described as a rival channel to what we do here. You know what I mean. But apparently he's going to use an offensive word coming up, so I'll just warn you about that ahead of time so that you won't be triggered by it. Have a look.
Because it was making me eyes feel a bit heavy, so I had an uplift. But what I don't like is when children...
You don't look Oriental or anything, do you?
Well, I just wanted the skin removed. I didn't want to change my face. I just wanted the skin that was hanging over my eyes.
All right.
The key thing is, Kerry, is you're open. You're open about it.
Apparently, you're not allowed to describe someone as looking Oriental, or I don't know how I would then describe Kerry Katona if her eyes change shape. I don't know how I'm going to say, does she look like someone from some other country in the eastern of the world? The world is ridiculous. How you have to apologise for people. I mean, if she painted herself, I don't get into this. But anyway,
but Kerry looks beautiful.
Kerry looks well, and I'm sorry if you don't look well and we've offended you in any way, or well, I don't know.
Anyway, do stay with us.
7:32.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
stay with us. We'll insult some more people coming up after the break. I love Eamon, I do. Poor guy, because he gets himself wrapped in knots about this. Kerry Katona, by the way, doesn't look great. I'm sorry, she doesn't look great for a long time, and I make no apology about that. Whether or not she looks Oriental is not really my thing, but yeah.
He's so funny. I just love that he was
apparently
like,
you can't say that.
Sorry.
No, you can't actually, no.
He's so funny. Wait, I think there's nothing wrong with describing somebody as Oriental. And you know what's really funny?
Only if they are Oriental, though.
He probably thought in his head, like, oh, me saying Oriental is quite respectful. You know, it's like, it's not, I'm not explicitly saying, you know, you look like you're East Asian, love. Right. It's kind of saying something a little bit different.
Because he thought it was better than saying what the other alternatives are.
Exactly.
Which are not perhaps
and then he had to apologise for that too.
Right.
I reckon what's obviously happened there is a producer's been like, you can't say that, mate.
I know. Yeah, that's exactly what's happened. And he's now found himself tied up in knots trying
Have you
to
been told
explain.
off?
No, never.
Never?
Never, no, nobody tells me off.
You won't let them?
No, but they just don't. I mean...
Uncensored Mike Graham.
Yeah, it literally is. I'm amazed, actually, because, I mean, like the other day I was going on about the migrant situation, and I was calling them medieval, people coming from these medieval countries, and I thought, surely at some point, Christian or somebody's going to tell me, you can't say that. But they don't tell me, because you can say that now, because we are actually the home of free speech, and
fantastic.
I would not be told not to say things, but there we are. Listen, it's 6:43. We're massively behind time. I'll tell you what, Christian will tell me off for actually being late rather than actually calling people Oriental. This is Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:45. Ray says this, I love Reem, but did she have an extra shot in her espresso this morning? I mean, listen, Reem is always a bubble of activity and a bubble of noise and amazing stuff. That's why we bring her in. I mean, you're full
thanks,
of energy.
Mike.
You're full of
Sorry
energy.
if I'm shouting too much,
No,
guys.
it's
I'm
all
just
right.
very passionate today.
Yeah, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. 11,000 people have claimed, 111,000 people have claimed asylum. Lucy Connelly's been freed. There's lots of stories in the papers about two-tier justice. Hotels braced for a wave of demos as well. And here's one for you, which I'd quite like to talk about. Norway has struck a massive oil find in the North Sea. Now, we're told by Ed Miliband, oh, we don't want to do anything like that. We don't want to go anywhere near oil and gas. We're going to close it all down. We are now buying in oil and gas from Norway, paying a premium for it. They're literally next door to us. They, if that was the North Sea there, we're there, and we're going. Oh no, we can't drill, but they can drill, and we can buy it from them. What's going on?
It's net zero madness is what it is. I mean, the legally binding target, net zero, in the Climate Change Act effectively means that we are making ourselves poorer because we are actively restricting the supply of energy. Now, it's economics 101.
It's like going to a petrol station and going, I'm not going to take any petrol out of the petrol pump. Instead, I'm going to get somebody to sort of crank up some ridiculous, generator, which is going to give me wind power.
And we do not issue any more oil and gas licenses because of net zero policies. And what that obviously means, look, when you've got an arbitrary target, I mean, it is an arbitrary target, when you're saying I'm going to get to net zero by X date, what that means is all of the policies that come alongside that mean that you're trying to achieve that. It's legally binding. Legally, the government have to reach net zero by that date, right? So it means you end
only
up with
because
all
they
these...
say we have to. I mean, it's legally binding because they've invented it.
It's complete
They've invented it, haven't they?
Ridiculousness. It's arbitrary. It's a complete made-up date. And net zero makes us poorer because of that reason, right? We are actively restricting the supply. Now, this story, I think, is really interesting because obviously other countries are like... you guys are absolute idiots for this in the UK. You are restricting the supply of energy. You are making things more expensive. And by the way, this has effects on everything. Like, it has an impact not only on households, but also on businesses if you are not able to achieve cheaper energy. Now, I've been talking about America a lot this morning, but in the US, petrol is about, on average, half the price what it is in the UK.
And they're really upset because it's gone up in price as well.
And it's half what it is in the UK. Now, that obviously has an impact on businesses. If you're a driver, you cannot afford to do certain things that other businesses are able to do across the country. And so what this means is that there are sort of conglomerate effects, right? It means that as a business, you cannot use all of those aspects of that. Energy is extraordinarily expensive, and all the government has to do is stay out of the way. If the government stays out of the way and allows these companies to drill, baby, drill, in the words of President Donald Trump, if we actually drilled, we would be able to use the energy in the short term. Now, I can hear the scream of XR and the scream of these sort of just stop oil people in the corner.
Who cares about them?
Fundamentally, the way that you help the climate is you allow for technological advancements to occur, efficiencies that are only possible in the energy market.
You tell the government to get out of the way, because one of the problems with this Labour government is that they keep wanting to regulate everything. Right? If it's not regulated, regulate it. If it's not taxed, tax it. They want to create a sort of environment where nobody can really do anything without permission.
The government basically want to allow government bureaucrats to decide absolutely everything in this country, and oil and gas licenses are just one of them. So what's fascinating about this story is that obviously another country is going to take advantage of that. We have such a fantastic oil resource in the North Sea. We should be drilling. We should be allowing businesses, these energy companies, to drill, because fundamentally that is how you bring down energy costs. And that I'm not just talking about your energy bills at home. I really want to stress this point. This has an impact on the entire economy as a whole, because when energy costs are high, that impacts everything. It impacts businesses. It impacts the impact that you can have on construction, how fast you can build homes, which means that homes are more expensive.
It pushes prices up for everything.
It pushes prices up for everything. And if we are able to reduce the cost of energy, the price of energy, you will have a huge impact on the economy as a whole. And if we do not start drilling in the North Sea as we have been over the last few years, if we do not start issuing oil and gas licenses again, we are literally shooting ourselves in the foot.
It's like we're cutting our own throats. It's absolute madness. Lots of messages coming in, so I'm going to read a few of them before we get any further. Morning, Mike. If Lucy's tweet was only seen by a few people, then it begs the question of which one of them forwarded her tweet onto the police. Nice friend, says Mark in West Sussex. Well, I think, I don't know whether there was a situation where somebody actually reported her or whether somebody saw it. I just don't know. But certainly she should not have been in prison for as long as she was.
I think it was a few 100,000 people that saw the tweet. I think it did go viral, but then she deleted it.
But initially, before she took it down, it was only seen by 26 people.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was only because it was screenshot by somebody,
oh,
and then
it was
forwarded.
Okay, that makes sense.
But in the initial kind of escapade, if you want, it was only seen by about 26 people.
And it was only up
and then
for
she
less
took
than
it
4
down.
hours.
She went out for a walk with the dogs, came back and went, actually, probably that wasn't the brightest thing I've ever done, and she took it down. And at that point, it had only been seen by 26 people.
And we've all done that.
We have.
We've all,
of course we have.
We've all tweeted something or said something that we regret.
Yeah.
And I think that fundamentally it's about ensuring that those people are able to express their opinions outwardly, openly, rather than it being festering underground.
Exactly right. Let's get a quick voice note from Mark. Have we done Mark? Oh, OK. We've done Mark. Well, give me another one then. You know, it's 6:52. I'm Mike Graham. Back after this.
Oh, Flynn has said, Samara, I agree with you all the time, but you're just boring.
I refuse to work for ITV ever again.
Oh!
What just happened? Fridays at 9 on Talk.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 5 minutes to 7. We're already, more or less the first hour is done. Reem's here, absolutely blowing the socks off everybody, telling us that, you know, she's incredibly busy, she's incredibly excited, she's incredibly opinionated, which is exactly what we want on a Friday. This is what we need. Let's get a voice note from James.
Good morning. What is it with this damn government, Mike? Whenever you want to get on with life, make yourself a little bit better in life, go out there, earn a few quid for yourself, trying to better yourself in life. They just kick you down. All I'm going to say, Mike, is just hide your money because they're going to come for you. They're going to come for it next, Mike. So just, well, look, I think we're going to have to spend all our money, Mike, before they get their greedy little hands on it. Anyway, have a good one, Mike. Looking forward to Plank of the Week again. Superb.
Yeah, Plank of the Week coming up later on tonight, 7 o'clock, of course. Yeah, people are saying this because, you know, they're coming after your pension now. They're coming after your house. If you've got a house, they're going to give a mansion tax on it. And people are actually going, you know what, I'm just going to spend my money as I go. And I've always said that. I'm not leaving my kids any money because I wasn't left any money by my parents. And, you know, if you want to have a, you know, buy yourself a nice watch, buy yourself a nice car, buy yourself a nice painting, just spend the money that you've got.
You might as well.
Because otherwise the government are going to bloody well take it off you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's the highest tax burden since Second World War, presided over by the Conservative government, and now things are just simply
This lot have managed to make it a lot worse, though, haven't they?
It is absolutely abysmal. I mean, really what we're thinking about in the context of things is the government are going to have to increasingly raise taxes because public spending is so extortionately high, and we've got to remember what this money is being spent on. We discussed healthcare costs earlier, about £200 billion a year. It's absolutely astronomical.
Out of control.
It's out of control, but then at the same time, the reason why people are angry, I think, about, you know, we see all the stories this morning in the paper, the reason why people are so angry about migrants is because we are footing the bill for it. Taxpayer money is being spent on these particular individuals. Why are people so angry about the fact that 21% of the working age population are economically inactive? It's because they know them. I've seen it in London. Like, I live in ex-council housing, right? Most nice flats in London are now, you know, formally owned by the council. And I know for a fact there are people on my road that are, you know, I'm paying about £1,000 a month, one room in a 3-bed shared flat. And I know there are people down my street that are not paying anything because they are still in what is currently council-owned housing.
So-called social housing.
It's insane. I basically think there shouldn't be any social housing at all, full stop, in inner cities.
No,
you know, Birmingham, Manchester, London, like, there should not be.
No.
If
you can't afford to live in the city, just don't live
in the city. Like, that's insane. But there's also the question of, like, why do we feel this way? And I think what's really interesting about the voice notes that we've had this morning, Mike, is that a lot of people are saying, you know what, I just want to work hard and be rewarded for my hard work.
Because that's what people do. People get up in the morning, and particularly because we start at 6 in the morning, people ring me and they're on their way to work, or they're driving already because they drive for a living, and they're actually out there making money, you know, creating... Because what the Labour government forgets is that without those people, without the people that actually create
the backbone of the economy,
and make tax revenue possible for them, you know, like I pay VAT, right, as a small business, and I create business for the government. If it wasn't for me, they would have a lot less money, right? If I stopped working and decided to go on the dole, they would be a lot worse off, you know. And there are thousands of people like me.
There are millions of people like you, Mike, people that want to work extremely hard. And I feel really sad about this because how many people in this country feel as though they can work extraordinarily hard, they can get up every single morning
and they get nothing in return,
and go to work, and they get nothing in return, but also...
And they look over there, and there's some migrants coming in who are getting it all for free, and there's some other people who are economically inactive.
Not just migrants. I mean, you know, most benefit claimants are white British people, and they are getting so much money in comparison to them. If you're in a minimum wage job, you know, you can be earning more on benefits than on a minimum wage job.
I know, it's madness.
This is the problem with the way in which the government works. The government is far too big, and quite frankly, they need to stay out of the way.
It's all wrong. Listen, we've got to run. Reem, great to see you.
Great to see you, Mike.
Absolute powerful woman. And that's what we like. This is Talk, and we'll be back after.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer is on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work. You just can't say it.
It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world, as told by the impressive David Bolt.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, coming up to very nearly 3 minutes past 7. It's a beautiful Friday morning. It's Friday the 22nd of August. The sun is up. We've actually had to shut the blind because the sun is blazing in. It's a bank holiday weekend as well. So whatever you're doing, we are going to be joining you to do so. Morning Glory's podcast, of course, comes out around about 10:15, 10:30. We're going to go down to Chris Evans in Carfest, which is down near Winchester. That's going on all weekend. He's got the Boomtown Rats. I'm thinking of popping down there and telling Bob Geldof to shut the hell up and stop being a complete and utter boring and anyway, no, never mind that. But the thing is, we'll be talking to them. Connie Shaw is here from the Free Speech Union. Connie, very good morning to you.
Mike.
Nice to see you. We're going to be getting into it with her, with Lucy Connelly, and with the whole story of free speech in this country, which is very much under threat, and we need to be very, very careful that we keep an exact eye on all of that. Also, of course, we're being told that there's going to be a summer of discontent and an autumn of discontent as well. We haven't even reached the end of the summer yet, but according to the Daily Telegraph, there's a walkout by tube staff over paying terms to be followed by GPs, nurses and junior doctors. They're all going on strike as well. Also, of course, it's got an all-time high. We revealed this figure yesterday for asylum claims. 111,000 migrants claimed asylum last year, and it turns out only 2,330 were actually sent back from whence they came. So that's a big story this morning as well. And also there's going to be a load of more protestations and demonstrations outside migrant hotels over the course of the weekend. According to the front page of the Times, fears of unrest in hotels for migrants, a wave of protests coming over the weekend because it is going to be quite nice weather. And you know what happens when it's quite nice weather. People like to get out and about and start demonstrating. 0344 499 1000 is the number. We're going to be playing you some gaffs as well because it's Gaff Prone Friday. This from Margaret in Yorkshire, who says, does anybody ever consider the amount of rubbish left in the sea when the migrants come over from France? We are always being told that they throw their documents and phones in the sea. What damage is that doing? I don't know the answer to that. Very, very good question, though, Margaret. Thank you very much indeed. This is Morning Glory. If you want to get in touch, you know what to do. 0344 499 1000 is the number. You can leave us a voice note. You can call us. We'll talk to you, of course, as we would like to do between now and 10 o'clock. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. The other story, of course, and we revealed this to you yesterday, which has been going on for a while, is that something like 50,000 flags have apparently been put up over the course of the last few days. In flags of St George, flags of the Union Jack as well. Here's a voice note from Tim.
Morning, Mike. It's Tim from Berkshire, just driving up the A34, and it's a wonderful sight. Somebody has put a whole load of England flags on all the bridges as I'm driving north and south, I think, as well. Great show.
The A34, absolutely festooned with flags. It's a very good thing. Let's talk to Connie Shaw. Connie, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Welcome to Morning Glory. It's great, this flag thing, isn't it? It's like suddenly Britain has rediscovered its patriotism and it's being exhibited every single minute of the day.
I think it's great, and I've heard a lot of people say, well, actually, it's a sign of weakness, and people actually, it's a sign of people feeling insecure. Well, of course people are insecure. Yeah. Why wouldn't you feel insecure? It's like there's nothing else that we can do at this point other than, you know what, let's just make it obvious that we're still patriotic. We still value the fact that we are British and we have British values.
Right.
I find it sort of a reverse argument when people say, oh, actually, it's a sign of weakness and you're just showing your insecurities.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're insecure. That's not a bad thing. We're making it clear. Yes, we are insecure, and that's why we want to do this, to try and re-instill that patriotism that you're
But the
talking
people
about.
who accuse us of being insecure are the very people who have created
who are more than happy to say everyone is, you know, let's not have any borders. There's no such thing as a nation. We'll bring everyone in. Doesn't matter where you're from or what you believe. You're welcome in this country, and how dare you be patriotic?
And do you not think that those people actually are not representative of the public in this country? Because I think the thing that we've found as hosts of radio shows and TV shows over the years, particularly here at Talk, is that, you know, the silent majority have been very, very silent, and now they're suddenly going, actually, you know what? We're actually going to stand up. You know, we're sick to death of being told that we've got it wrong. We're sick to death of being told that Britain's a toxic nation and that we're white supremacists and we don't like people who've got different coloured skin. It's not about that. It's about being proud of your own country, surely.
Absolutely, and that's why I have a lot of respect for Kemi Badenoch, because from the beginning she has been, in no uncertain terms, very clear about the fact that if we're going to allow people from significantly different, fundamentally different cultures into this country, we have to have a serious conversation about our differences, and that actually some cultures are not as valid as others. Some cultures are bad compared to ours.
Absolutely.
And it's not a racist thing to say that some cultures, frankly, treat their people like, you know, the worst things in the world. And we have to be honest about that. We can't pretend that as soon as people step foot on British soil, that suddenly they're these liberal people who love everyone, who are going to treat everyone with tolerance and respect that we expect them to. It's just not the case.
Exactly.
And I have a lot of respect for her.
Because again, you know, if you go to, you know, Palestine, if you go and sort of hang out in Gaza, you suddenly very quickly become aware of the fact that they're not a very tolerant bunch of people. They don't like gay people. They don't really like men who perhaps, you know, are not as macho as they think they should be. You know, they are very prejudicial people. And so suddenly when we kind of lionise them and go, oh, let's celebrate Palestine, let's have queers for Palestine. No, we don't have queers for Palestine, because in Palestine, queers would be killed.
Well, yeah, that is a difficult thing that they have to grapple with, and I guess, well, they tend to say, well, just because they might not accept me doesn't mean that they shouldn't have human rights, which I suppose is a good argument, but like you say, it is concerning when we know that children are now going to be able to come here for medical care, and not only that, they'll be bringing their family here, and they've had over a decade of Hamas indoctrination. So yes, we don't know who
exactly. And also, I mean, yesterday we were seeing, you know, and the front page of the Daily Mirror, actually, which was one of the worst front pages, I think, of any newspaper I've ever seen in this country, where they had this Somalian incomer who was in the Migrant hotel in Epping, who was basically saying, oh, please don't treat us all as if we're all criminals. We're not all criminals. You know, we're very nice people, actually. And for me, the problem was that nobody was asking him the pertinent question, which is, what are you doing here exactly? Why have you come here? What are you doing in Epping, in Essex, from Somalia? You know, I get it that you might want to have a better life. I get it that you might want to improve yourself. But I think we've got the clip. Let's have a look.
I would say, please give us a second chance. Please treat us the same way you treated us before the incident, because we are the same people. Before the incident, you didn't view us as criminals or anything. You were okay with us before the incident took place. We are the same people. One person doesn't change us. What one person does not, represent us or what we are. That's what I want to say to them.
And a message about having to move. Do you want to move?
Please, I say, please don't move us, because if you move us, everyone else will want to do the same to us.
And, please don't move us. The incident he's talking about is, of course, the guy who's been allegedly charged with assaulting a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is, as I say, for my purposes anyway, I would say, well, what do you do? What do you want from us? What are you doing here? Why are you not in Somalia?
Well, I can imagine why you might not want to be in Somalia, but the question is, why didn't you remain in the first safe country that you arrived in? And it's not a secret that Somalia, it doesn't have a particularly favourable view of women. We know how women are treated in that society. And at the end of the day, as much as it might not be him that's committing these crimes, as a country we need to have a serious conversation about the fact that as a woman, and I see most things through the lens of women's rights, because that is my background in politics. We cannot not have the conversation about that Afghans are 20 times more likely to commit sexual violence than British people.
I mean, how do you feel as a woman walking around the streets of London, for example, now, which are very different from what they were even 10 years ago?
Well, I didn't grow up in London, so I can't compare it to anything like that. But I can, unfortunately, from my own experiences, whenever I have come into trouble with men that I don't know out in public, these are just my personal experiences, and I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I could tell you something different. It nearly always is a man from a certain background, and they make it very clear from the way that they behave that for them this is just normal. And like I say, I wish I had, because it sounds...
These are foreign men, in other words.
Yeah, men who've... I mean, even at university, one time I was flashed in a nightclub because I wouldn't dance with a guy. And he told me that I was disrespectful because I told him to get away from me after he was repeatedly trying to dance with me, trying to hold my hand, and I just said, please leave me alone. He wouldn't stop pestering me. He then, on the dance floor of the nightclub, just unbuttoned his jeans and got his genitals out to intimidate me. And it turns out that he was a student. He was an international student. He'd come from Saudi. And it's like, maybe there's no correlation here, but also, why are you calling me disrespectful for not wanting to give in to your immediate request to hold my hand and dance with me? And it's just... What am I meant to do? What are women meant to do when there's clearly a correlation?
And why should you have to put up with that? Why should you?
And people say, well, we've never been a safe country for women. British men are just equally as bad. And they'll say, well, it's always most people who get abused by men is by men that they know. I know. So let's not make it even worse when we're inviting men from cultures that we know. And it's not racist to say, and it's actually factually correct to say that countries like Afghanistan and countries in the Middle East take an unfavourable view of women.
Well,
and Jess Phillips cannot answer that question as to why. Tom Sawbrook on LBC asked her this question directly on LBC the other day, and she'll say, well, every country has a patriarchy. And she loves going on about this word patriarchy, that she will never admit that the patriarchy that we have in this country is miles, universes apart from what is going on in Afghanistan, and it's an insult to Afghan women to argue that there is supposedly no difference between the way that men treat women in Afghanistan and the way that women are treated in Britain.
Where they've now, by the way, said that not only should they wear a burqa, which means that they can't actually be showing their face, they've now said they should only be allowed to have one eye, which is able to look out of whatever it is that they're covering their heads with. But, equally, they say they want to safeguard women and girls all the time. It's what they say. And of course they don't actually want to safeguard women and girls because they're not doing it. But, I mean, it's just such ridiculousness. Let's just talk about Lucy Connelly before we let you go, because I know that was originally what we were supposed to talk about. Lucy Connelly finally released back into the bosom of her family yesterday. Everybody's trying to talk to her. We're not sure if we're going to be able to get to her before, a newspaper does. I suspect she'll do a big interview with one of the papers at the weekend. But, what a ridiculous situation that you've locked a woman up for 31 months, allegedly. She's got out, obviously, before that. But what an awful sort of experience for her.
I know, it's just insane. She has been made an example of. I think we also forget that as much as she technically served only 9 months of her 31-month sentence, she's been behind bars for over a year because she was remanded in custody, and that is the very reason why she pled guilty, because she believed that by pleading guilty, she'd end up being behind bars for a shorter time.
Yes.
Rather than if she'd pled not guilty.
Well, she was told that, wasn't she?
That was the advice, supposedly,
lawyer,
that she was given, that if she'd pled not guilty, she'd be behind bars for an even longer time, awaiting trial behind bars, which is different to what happened with Ricky Jones, the Labour councillor, who, in my opinion, did something far worse than what Lucy did. Both were disgusting, but what Ricky Jones did, standing in a crowd of people at a protest, saying those protesters over there need to have their throats cut, and get every single one of them.
And he also said it in front of a camera.
Yes, in front of a camera.
You know,
he's an elected
much
official.
Larger, you know,
absolutely, and he was released on bail, eventually had the expert advice of a very experienced criminal lawyer, a KC, whereas Lucy only had a duty solicitor and was very badly advised. And then once Lucy was sentenced, in the sentencing remarks, the judge referenced diversity and inclusion. So there wasn't just a legal assessment of her tweet, there was a political one, in my opinion. I'm sure they would refute that.
So.
But while she was in prison, she was denied release on temporary licence, which meant that she could have spent at least one night at home a month. Apparently that was due, according to the prisons, it was due to a pending risk assessment. But internal comms said it was due to the public interest in her case, as though like a double punishment. Because you've had so much attention, you're not allowed to go home. She was also denied home curfew detention, which meant that she could be at home on electronic tag. She was denied that, but 2 other inmates who were serving sentences for death by dangerous driving were granted it. They were applying at the same time. They were serving sentences for death by dangerous driving. They were allowed to go home, but Lucy wasn't. There has been 2-tier justice throughout that. The same judge who gave Lucy her 31 months gave a man, Harris Gaffard, only 20 months for actually taking part in the riots. Another man, Philip Prescott, took part in an attack on a mosque, threw things at police officers. He was given a more lenient sentence. A man called Mohammed Islam Chowdhury, in 2013, he was part of a Telford grooming gang. He got a more lenient sentence for paying a child for sex. So when people tell you that there's no two-tier justice in this country, they are being willfully ignorant and choosing to ignore the facts that are in front of us.
And do you think it's possible, and I know it might be a difficult question to answer officially, if you like, do you think that there was an instruction that came from Downing Street to go to the CPS, to go to that judge, so that they knew exactly what was going on, that it wasn't just controlled, it wasn't just a judge who kind of inadvertently went, we're going to make an example of this woman, it was actually an instruction from much higher up?
I couldn't possibly comment. Obviously, at the time, it was a very politically turbulent period, and Starmer
did. But it's not inconceivable, is it?
It's not inconceivable, but I wouldn't want to comment either way. But Keir Starmer obviously said that they were going to be sort of rushed to get people through the courts.
Well, he was already calling people far-right thugs before they were even convicted.
And what's even more ironic, that Keir Starmer in 2013, when he was Director of Public Prosecution, said that he didn't think that, well, as long as when someone posted something offensive on social media, he said, as long as there was efforts to delete the posts, as long as they were remorseful, as long as there wasn't really the intent to actually incite anything, that they shouldn't be locked up. But he's changed a lot, it seems, in the last 10 years.
Funny that. He's done quite a lot of U-turning, hasn't he? I mean, he's U-turned so often, I wonder whether he can actually stand still and not be very dizzy.
Yes,
but, you know,
it would be nice if he could have a word with his former self.
And as a proponent of free speech, is it possible, do you think, that Lucy Connelly will come out and speak about this, or will she be told, you know, your life will be a lot simpler if you just don't?
Well, I'm sure she'll be told lots of things. I couldn't possibly comment about what Lucy's situation will be now that she's out of prison. However, we do have a case at the moment, Robert Moss. So he was arrested. He was on talk. He was talking to Kev the other day.
Right? Yeah.
Ex-fireman who was arrested under the on suspicion of breaking the Malicious Communications Act for harassment without violence, because he'd criticised his former employer, Staffordshire Fire Service, on Facebook, and his bail conditions said that not only could he not say anything about Staffordshire Fire Rescue and Service, he couldn't even mention the fact that he'd been arrested. His house had been raided at 7 a.m, had all of his devices seized, so it's not uncommon, and it's almost similar to, well, obviously it's a different scale, completely different cases, but the fact that one of the reasons for Lucy not being granted release on temporary licence due to the public interest in her case, it's like, if you have public interest, if you draw attention to your case, we'll punish you again. And it's a very, very draconian, Orwellian condition.
And this is happening all the time, isn't it? I mean, we found out from the Essex Police when the protests started happening in Epping that they basically arrest something like 1.4 people a day for some kind of hate crime, which is supposedly a spoken hate crime. So there's an awful lot of this going on.
Oh yeah, custody data obtained by the Times says that 30 people a day are being arrested for so-called offensive messages on social media.
Yeah.
It is a problem.
I mean, I must admit, I'm now at the point where I expect somebody to come knocking on my door. You know, because I offend people every single day. You know, I take pride in it. That's what I do. But you wonder if people don't have a platform, if they don't have any kind of way of protecting themselves, what can they do?
It does occur to me that these seem to be, considering there are so many people having visits from the police, it must be happening to people who don't have that much. Because when it happened to Alison Pearson, it was huge news, and it was a wake-up call for a lot of people. And when it happens to people who have big platforms, it really does raise the alarm. But the fact there are 30 people a day, when the most active people on social media are people like you and me, whose jobs are to be active on social media, but it can't be happening to those people. So are they picking? It does feel like they're going after people who don't know their rights, who don't have an opportunity to say, this has happened to me. And that's why it's so important that anyone out there who feels like that they're about to get in trouble or have been in trouble, the first thing you do is get in contact with the Free Speech Union, and we will help you. Always get in contact. It's devastating when we're not able to get there in time for people like Lucy. If only we could have advised her before she chose to plead guilty. But people like Robert, he had no idea that the Free Speech Union existed before he got in trouble. And he even said to me on the phone the other day, had he heard about this thing that's happened to him happening to someone else before it happened to him, he wouldn't have believed it. But now it's happened to him, and he cannot believe that this is the state of our country.
Yeah, it is extraordinary, isn't it? Amazing. Connie, great to see you. Thank you so much. What a fantastic woman, what a fantastic organisation, the Free Speech Union. If you are having any trouble at all with any organisation, whether it be the police, local council, anyone trying to push you around and tell you that you can't say things that you want to say or that you have said, you know, you get in touch and you make sure that they represent you, because they will help you out and they will make sure that your life is not made a bloody absolute misery by these Orwellian, nightmarish, you know, Stasi-type troops, you know, stormtroopers that would like to tell you exactly what you can do and what you can't do, because I don't take any advice from anybody on that front. 22 minutes past 7, this is Talk.
What happened yesterday could seriously undermine the government's national plan. As you mentioned, you know, we got Labour-run Rural Council, but also Tamworth as well, and they both said that they are actively considering legal action against the Home Office over the use of these hotels. And it was quite interesting what your listener said, because you just sort of read out his message where he said, you know, if these hotels close and they're on 3-year contracts, are we still going to pay for these hotels even if they close?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
A very good morning to you. 25 minutes past 7. This is, of course, the home of common sense. It's the place to get the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. It's Talk. It's the place where the nation comes to talk. And we have got lots and lots of things to tell you about this morning, including what's on the front pages, which has a lot of migrant stories. Hotels for migrants face a wave of protests coming up this weekend. An all-time high for asylum claims is what it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. And, of course, celebrating the release of Lucy Connelly, who's been locked up for over a year for a tweet that she sent out, which was kind of cancelled after 3 hours. As she's freed after 377 days in jail for tweeting about the Southport attack, the inside story of Lucy Connelly's prison torment is what it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. And the front page of The Sun has got Mum's Home. Riot tweet Lucy free after a year in jail away from her daughter, aged 12. I mean, you can't imagine. What sort of country locks up a woman, a mother, a person who has got a 12-year-old daughter and a husband dying of cancer because of something she wrote down on a social media site? She committed no crime, as far as I'm concerned. She committed nothing like the sort of crimes that are committed on a daily basis where people don't get sent to prison. There are plenty of examples of people who did much, much worse things than she's ever done, who've never gone to jail in their lives. She wasn't allowed home even to see her daughter at any point during that year in prison, 377 days. Absolutely unbelievable. And is this really the country that we live in? Is this really the country that we're supposed to be proud of? It really is quite extraordinary. Let's get a voice note from Adrian.
Morning, Mike. Just listening to you guys. Have a great start to your show. It's going to be wonderful. It's Adrian from East Sussex. I was just looking out across the window and the sun's rising. It looks beautiful. The country's in turmoil. We've got the hotels going to have to close. We've got people being evicted from their houses to house illegal immigrants who haven't paid into the system. We have the finances completely down the drain because people don't know how to run them, even though that's the job she's always wanted her whole life, Rachel Reeves, apparently. And we have Parliament on its holidays still.
Well, that's a very good point. I keep saying, why is this Parliament not being recalled? Why are we not having an emergency cabinet meeting? Why are we not having an emergency about everything that's going on with regard to what's going on in the Channel? You know, they had an emergency cabinet meeting about Gaza. Those complete and utter numpties. Jeff in Aberdeenshire says this: if 111,000 immigrants came here illegally, where are they? We have 35,000 in hotels and a couple of thousand sent home. Where the heck are the rest of them housed? Secondly, what a wonderful stream of womanhood you have on your show. Maybe it's down to you or your production team. Anyone seeing your show would think we have nothing but intelligent and powerful women in this country, says Jeff in Aberdeenshire. Well, we do have an awful lot of intelligent women on this show because that's what we like to do. We have intelligent men as well. I'm not sure I can say that we have intelligent non-binary people. We have any of those. Never mind. Let's get some gaffs underway, though, because, of course, this is Gaff Prone Friday, and we try to keep you amused as best we can, so that even when you are in the depths of despair going, what the hell's happening to this country? Have a look at Peter Blexley on Morning Glory a bit earlier in the week. Thank you, Mr. President. I can do one, right, for you. Thank you, Mr. President, for inviting us here. We've done so much so far. It's been brilliant because we've been able to, put together a plan which will be fantastic going forward. And what we can do is set out a framework for where we can go after this, onto the next time that we can. It's just ridiculous. He just wastes. I mean, if he was charging by the hour like lawyers do, you can see why he would talk like that, right? That's why he does. But for God's sake, stop! It's so boring. He can't. He's literally said nothing. Captain Coldsore. Yeah, Captain Coldsore. We've got to move on to that, haven't we? Because, of course, Captain Coldsore was dominating the show earlier on in the week when old Keir Starmer went to Washington and tried to make out he was important. But unfortunately, he turned up with a massive cold sore on his lip. Oh, look at this.
We had two material outcomes. The first, on the question of security guarantees, was the agreement that the coalition of willing countries, that's 30 countries already working together on security guarantees, will now work with the US on those guarantees, coordinating, and we have already commissioned our teams to do the detailed further work on that. That's really important for security in Ukraine, for security in Europe, and for security in the United Kingdom. The other material outcome was the agreement that will now be a bilateral agreement between President Putin and President Zelensky. That was after a phone call between President Trump and President Putin during the course of this afternoon, followed by a trilateral, which will then add in President Trump.
It's complete bollocks, I'm sorry. There's no agreement, there's no coalition of the willing, there's no meeting, there's nothing going on, right? The whole ridiculous charade of them all going over to the White House going, oh, well, we're going to sit around with President Trump and we're going to solve the problem in Ukraine. As Donald Trump says himself, and then they get back to Melania and they've blown up another kid's home, and they've, the Russians are still bombing the hell out of Ukraine. Nothing's changed, right? And then he's bumping his gums about how it's all going to be great with his cold sore, talking about how it's all going to be solved brilliantly by the coalition of the willing. What's a complete plank? I'm sorry. Plank of the Week, of course, coming out tonight at 7 o'clock, for those of you who want to have a sense of humour about all this. Let's talk to Lucy White, public policy specialist. I'm sorry, Lucy, to keep you waiting, but we had to play out that complete charade of nonsense from Keir Starmer, who continually tries to make out that he's a very important man, who is just basically a complete and utter plonker. Rodney!
Yeah, he is an utter national embarrassment. That's all he is. He's a national embarrassment.
He really is. Let's talk a little bit about the whole situation that's coming up, which one of the things that he doesn't address, right, and he hasn't ever addressed in his very many social media posts, is what's about to happen this weekend. More protests around the migrant hotels, more people getting continually cheesed off, shall we say, about the fact that these migrants are sitting in their communities, wandering about, willy-nilly, without any kind of supervision whatsoever. Nobody knows who they are, nobody knows what they've done, nobody knows what they're likely to do. But what we can say, with a fair amount of surety, is they're probably going to sexually assault some women over the weekend.
Yeah, there's one word for what's happening to our country, and that is suicide. This is all suicidal. The latest scandal is that following these protests where in Epping they managed to successfully close the Bell Hotel, the migrants have to leave by the 12th of September. And so that's put pressure on the government, apparently, to now look for, 5,000 homes for 20,000 migrants. But the issue with this is, again, as I say, this is all completely suicidal. And we don't have a housing crisis, we have a migrant crisis. But specifically, what's interesting is if you look at the asylum seeker, the Immigration and Asylum Act of 1999 under Section 95, it literally states that the government does not have any obligation to house them in specific accommodation. Right. But we can be housing them in tents. We don't have to put them into homes and communities. So if you were about to buy a house, you can now be competing against the government to buy that house, which is insane.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it? Because we don't really know precisely where all these people are. I mean, somebody asked the question earlier. If 111,000 people have come into this country by hook or by crook, whether it's illegally by boats or by lorries or by whatever, but if they're seeking asylum and only 2,330 of them have been sent home, then that leaves a very large number of people who are still here, and we don't know why they're here, we don't know what they're doing here, we don't know who they are, we don't know where they are, but what we suspect is that they are literally ruining all sorts of different communities in this country.
Oh, of course they're ruining communities in this country. And what you're seeing is white flight. So, you know, white British people are literally leaving the country because they cannot stand to be here anymore. If you've had your neighbourhood and your community ruined by migrants, you're not going to want to stay there because they are disruptive, they are not compatible, and they will reduce your quality of living very, very quickly.
Exactly right. And so many parts of this country have been blighted in that way, haven't they? Where people talk about, I mean, for example, in Bournemouth, we learned at the weekend, the Sunday Times went down there, and there's 4 or 5 people who parade themselves around at night as a sort of vigilante gang to try and make sure that the streets are safe for women and girls in Bournemouth. And, you know, what we're told is that, I haven't been down to Bournemouth recently, the beach is overrun by migrants, that you know, Sandbanks, one of the most you know, wealthy parts of the country, overrun by migrants. You know, it's extraordinary what's going on.
Yeah, it's absolutely extraordinary. And, you know, if you look at the countries that these men come from, it could be Eritrea, Afghanistan, Sudan, etc.
Right.
Our very own Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office advises against all travel to these countries.
Yeah.
Is willing to flood our country with men from there who are illegal, of course. And, you know, none of this makes sense. This is completely suicidal. So all I'm waiting for is for this Labour government to go. You know, Keir Starmer should resign over this. It is a national emergency. But as soon as we get some competent people in power, we need to go back over at least the last 10 years and reverse all the damage that has been done. All of the asylum seeker applications that have been granted, all of the visas that have falsely been given, the Boris wave, all of this needs to be reversed. And it can be reversed. You can't just say, oh, too much damage has been done, we need to get on with it and accept it. No, we're not going to accept it. We're going to reverse it, and it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at a couple of clips that we've got here. First of all, this is a migrant who's in the Bell Hotel in Essex. Have a look at this.
I say, please give us a second chance. Please treat us the same way you treated us before the incident, because we are the same people. Before the incident, you didn't view us as you know, criminals or anything. You were okay with us before the incident took place. We are the same people. One person doesn't change us. What one person does not, you know, represent us or what we are. You know, that's what I want to say to them.
And a message about having to move. Do you want to move?
Please, I say, please don't move us, because if you move us, everyone else will want to do the same to us.
I mean, I don't know who's interviewing this guy, right? I would have said, what are you doing here? You know, not where would you like us to move you? You know, because I don't, this guy doesn't have any rights. A couple of messages coming in, one from Simon in Llandudno, who says, Mike, good morning. You played a clip of the Somalian migrant saying you didn't view us as criminals before the incident in question. Yes, we did. It's called illegal migration. The clue is in the title. The world is driving me mad. One from Hoppy, Sean from Cheshire, in the Pyrenees apparently yesterday. He says that immigrant saying, please don't move us, we are not criminals, every single one of them is a criminal because they broke into our country, and even if they were dragged here by the border force, so they're all criminals. And surely that should be the premise that we start from.
Yeah, precisely. Well, there's a few takeaways here. And so number one, that interview was done by ITV, which is part of this mainstream media narrative
Woke.
that push, exactly, the woke liberals. And secondly, you know, he is from Somalia,
right?
So the nearest safe country to him is probably Egypt or Uganda. Where
Right. I don't want anybody from Somalia to come here. I'm sorry if that sounds racist. I don't give a crap, basically. I don't want them here. Why are they here?
not. No, exactly. And as I say, if they're genuinely fleeing war or persecution, their nearest safe countries are Egypt and Uganda. So why on earth do they have to come all the way into Europe? And as we know, Mike, it's because we give them hotels, we give them £49 a week, we give them subsistence, we give them food. And this Somalian man has absolutely no right to demand where he's housed. If anything, he should be in a tent at our shores and ready to be deported. He needs to be detained and deported. There's no way that he should be in our country ever.
No, exactly right. And this is the point, you know, this idea that we've somehow got a duty to help these people. I don't know where we got that duty from, but I'm not interested, and neither is most of the country interested in having a duty. We've got a country that's full up. We've got a country that is overburdened with excessive payments to people who don't do anything, plenty of whom are homegrown, by the way. And we don't really need to import any more people who don't actually bring any additional kind of merit to the country. These are not these. I mean, this guy, the Somalian, right? What exactly is he bringing to Britain that we need? I don't think he's bringing anything.
Fear. He's just bringing fear, and you know, if I saw him walking down the street towards me, I would instantly cross to the other side of the road. The other thing is, of course, you know, when we say we have no obligation to look after these people, we actually do not. And I mentioned this recently, that in 1950, when the ECHR was created, it was created to protect the human rights of member states of the Council of Europe, which is Europeans, not the rest of the world. So that has been abused. We need to leave the ECHR. We need to repeal the Human Rights Act, because there are British people, British men and women in our country who are homeless, who are on a housing waiting list, and yet we are prioritising illegals from the third world who have never paid a penny into our welfare system, and yet all they do is take, and they are never going to be net contributors. So they have to all go. They've all got to go. They've all got to be detained and deported. The sooner the better.
Yeah. And how do you feel as a woman, Lucy? Because I ask this question now of any woman that comes on the show about this particular subject. I mean, have you felt in any way in danger walking around the streets of this country?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, I'm also a spokesperson for the Women's Safety Initiative. And one of the reasons I do this is because mass migration threatens women in our country. And I have felt unsafe many times. I've been, you know, on the tube or walking around London where there are groups of migrants who speak in other languages. You don't know what they're saying. They will be staring at you, and it's methods of intimidation. So, you know, if you look at where these men come from, the women there will typically have very little rights. These men typically come from countries where there is misogyny, and they are importing those cultures here. I mean, I've made this argument before, and if you look at Nigeria, for example, the states of northern Nigeria, which are the Islamic states, it's acceptable for men to have 2 or 3 wives, for example. So polygamy is normal in their culture. And then they come here and they have those attitudes of degrading women. And if you take Pakistan, for example, if a woman is even accused of adultery with 0 evidence, she can be stoned to death. And that is still happening today in 2025. So
I
these
know.
men...
Shocking.
Yeah, and look at the Pakistani Muslim grooming gang scandal. That was completely covered up by the government, by the police, by the mainstream media, all because they were too scared to be called racist. Well, we cannot be scared to call out the truth. So these grooming gang scandals, this is the moment that happened. The very first incident it happened, all of those men should have been deported. But instead, it's still going on today. So as a woman, of course, I'm not feeling safe to live in our country, Mike. I've been to many other countries where I feel much safer to wear, shorts or a skirt. But in London, you just don't feel. I don't do that, and the evidence is there. If you look on the London Underground, there are now posters that say "up skirting," which means that You should not be taking photos of women.
I know. It's extraordinary, isn't it? They have to tell people not to do it. Listen, great to talk to you, Lucy. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to leave it there just because we're short of time, I'm afraid. But very, very good luck to you. And, yeah, what woman should have to put up with that sort of nonsense in this country, in this day and age, just because, you know, a bunch of people from a foreign country have come in and decided to behave in an appalling and disproportionately, you know, ghastly way. Absolute scumbags. Lucy White, Public Policy Specialist. Coming up, Susan Hall's going to join us, leader of the Conservative group in the London Assembly, of course, a woman who goes head-to-head with Sadiq Khan every possible opportunity she gets, but unfortunately doesn't get any answers from him. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory at 7:47, very nearly. I'm here till 10 o'clock, of course. Mark Dolan is in at 10 o'clock for Julie Hartley-Brewer and indeed Alex Phillips and indeed Kevin O'Sullivan. So Mark Dolan will be here. The first time I've seen him for ages, actually. I was going to wear a tie that he bought me this morning, but I took one look at it and it just didn't quite go with the shirt. Sorry about that. Never mind. We're going to be talking to Susan Hall very shortly, Assembly member with the Conservative group in the London Assembly, former mayoral candidate, of course, as well. Coming up this weekend, the Notting Hill Carnival will be upon us, and no doubt, just like last year, there will be some trouble ahead. Let's get a voice note from Linda.
Hi, Mike. Linda from Worcestershire. I don't want these illegal immigrants to be able to work either legally or illegally. I don't want them getting a foothold onto British citizenship and strengthening their claims to stay here when they are just going to be a drain. Regardless, they're not here to be part of British culture. It's not going to work. They don't need to be here. They shouldn't be here. And we wouldn't have this problem if the government just stopped it and kicked them out.
Well, exactly right. I don't see why we have to be in the position where we go, oh, well, we have to entertain these people. I mean, this bloke from Somalia, I don't know who he is. I don't know what he's done. I don't know what his antecedents are. I don't know whether he's got any criminal record. I don't know whether he's beaten up his wife. I don't know whether he's killed his wife, to be honest. And I don't want him in Britain. I don't see why we should be entertaining it at all. It makes no sense to me. Susan Hall is here. Susan, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Thanks very much for joining us. I mean, you last weekend were out and about at the Britannia Hotel talking to the women who were very legitimately protesting there, saying, you know, same thing as I'm saying. We don't know who these people are. You know, I've got no idea why we should be hosting them here. I've got no inclination to, you know, to welcome them into our society so that they can rip it all off and just, you know, freeload off us. You know, when is it going to stop?
Well, I don't know when it's going to stop. You know, we should have got more of a grip of it when we were in charge. They should certainly have left the Rwanda scheme in place just to see it work, and it was certainly a deterrent. There's nothing now. And for years, people like you and I, Mike, have been saying, why are we making it so appealing for them to come over? And you hear people on the television saying, oh, well, those poor things, they haven't got, you know, a penny to their name and all this sort of nonsense. Right. Well, how did they pay then to get the smugglers to get them in illegally? I mean, apparently it costs thousands of pounds to come into the country illegally. So they're not so completely broke, are they?
No, exactly.
No, I was standing with some local residents last Sunday. These are people that have never, ever been to a demonstration before. I've never been on a side. I've been to demonstrations with the police before, so not taking a side. But I have never been on a demonstration before. But I feel so strongly for these people, particularly mothers who just do not want their girls and boys, let's face it, just, you know, being around these people who they have no idea who they are, and they're all young men.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely ridiculous. And, I mean, there's going to be more demonstrations coming up this weekend, according to the Times front page this morning. Cardiff, Chichester, Bournemouth, Portsmouth, Leeds, Orpington, Altrincham, Nottingham, Cannock, Hawley, Newcastle, Tamworth. I mean, this goes on and on and on. I would imagine there'll be another demonstration outside the Britannia as well in Canary Wharf.
Well, you have to feel sorry for the police, don't you? Because we've got the Notting Hill Carnival, which, as you know, absorbs police from all over the place. 7,000 of them. Yeah. So they've got to deal with that. They've got to deal with all these demonstrations. And last Sunday, most of the people there were completely calm and quiet. There was about half a dozen young men that turned up with masks on. And if anybody was going to cause trouble, clearly they would have done. But most of us there were just standing there in protest for these people being put in that hotel.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's talk about what's coming up this weekend. Bank holiday weekend, of course. Notting Hill Carnival, which was almost going to be stopped this year until Sadiq Khan suddenly found £1 million to hand to the organisers to help them with their security budget, apparently. You know as well as I do, Susan, it's going to end in tears. There's going to be probably knife crimes. There's going to be, you know, drug crimes. There's going to be probably a couple of people dying. It's not any longer, surely, a sort of celebration of culture, is it?
Well, the minute you say anything that it should be changed or it should be looked at, you're called racist. But we've got to the point, some of us, haven't we, where we think, blow it, I don't care, call me what you like. The truth is, in the next 5 years, Notting Hill Carnival will cost the taxpayers between 80 and 100 million pounds, which, you know, how can we afford that when we're reducing policing in our city at a time when we should be increasing policing in our city? The Metropolitan Police are so short of money, which is why they're closing all their front counters. Yes. Absolutely ludicrous. And of course it would have probably had to have stopped this time, but because the mayor found nearly another £1 million. Amazing, isn't it? He can find money for things he wants to go ahead, but he can't fund our police properly. Yes. Well, we played your clip out, actually, on Plank of the Week last week when you were trying to get from the deputy mayor, one of his many deputy mayors, the answer to the question, why have they shut down all of these, police front desks, if you like, and so many police stations that nobody can now go to and report any kind of crime. And I mean, I couldn't believe quite how useless that woman was. Who couldn't answer any of your questions, who couldn't even tell you at what point Sadiq Khan found out that it was happening. I know, and she's on about 140, 150k a year. I know, absolutely extraordinary. I mean, have you had any more information since that moment? No, absolutely none, but, you won't be surprised to hear I will continue to ask. Because people do want at least one place in their borough in their London borough that they can go and report a crime, or if they just want to talk to an officer. You know, at the moment, I live in Harrow. As you know, there will be no front desk in Harrow. Hillingdon's my borough next door. There'll be no front desk there either. It's not good enough.
Yeah.
We pay our taxes. We should at least be entitled to a fully functioning Metropolitan Police Service.
Exactly right. But we're also not told, like just this week or the week before, by Keir Starmer, that they were investing a load of money in police forces and that you were actually going to have a named officer that you could get in touch with if there was a problem in your neighbourhood. You know, what's happened to that in London then?
Well, he's living in cloud cookie land of Keir Starmer, isn't he? From smashing the gangs to that
completely
stupid woman
useless.
saying we want more money in your pockets. I mean, they are so incompetent. It's not even embarrassing. It's horrific. We are absolutely careering into financial disaster, and then they don't even know what to do. They've had 14 years to sort out what they would do if they came into power, and look at the mess they're making of it.
Oh, I know.
Outrage.
Absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, one final thing for you to look forward to, a tube strike. The RMT, surprise, surprise, have worked out that actually they need a bit more money, so they're going to put the pressure on Sadiq Khan and presumably on Angela Rayner and all the rest of the bozos in Parliament to say, oh, we need a bit more money, otherwise we're not going to work.
Yeah, the trouble is the Labour politicians are frightened of all the unions, aren't they? And let's face it, a lot of them actually get money from the unions for their campaigns. Sadiq Khan has got to stand firm on this. I've never heard of anything like it in my life. They want an extra half an hour off a week. They're going on about their pay, and yet they've been offered, I believe, 3.4% pay increase, which is a lot more than most. They want to talk about fatigue management. If they're not up to the job because it's all too tiring, then I suggest they go and look for another career. But of course they won't, because they're paid so much anyway.
They do a 4-day week anyway, don't they?
Oh, well, and then they're talking about extremes as shift patterns.
Yeah.
Well, from what I know is nurses do 12 hours a day. If they want to do shorter shift patterns, then they'll have to work a 5-day week. But no, they won't want to do that either.
No.
They're a damn disgrace, and Sadiq Khan has got to stand firm and just say enough is enough.
Yeah, well, let's hope he does, but I'm not holding out too much hope. Susan Hall, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Have a lovely weekend. Assembly member, of course, leader of the Conservative group at the London Assembly, former mayoral candidate. We'll talk some more about all of that, everything that's coming up in the next hour after this.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. We're coming up to 8 o'clock. It is Friday, of course. It is the 22nd of August. We've got lots to do. It's a bank holiday weekend. We're going to be going down to Carfest and talk to Chris Evans in a little while. Also coming up, John Rentoul in the next hour. This is Morning Glory. We've just been talking in the office here about how many of us have been attacked at some point or other by some form of flying beast or any wildlife. I mean, so we'll take your stories this morning.
Hello, this story is concerning wildlife. It's concerning a rhino.
A rhino?
Right? Yeah,
okay.
rhino. I used to live in Kenya when I was about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay.
And we were in this wildlife park in a grey Morris Minor. This rhino started chasing us. There's me and my sister in the back seat.
Right.
It was like something out of Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We were turning around saying, "Believe it, Dad. Just put your foot down, Dad. We're in a field. Put your foot down." This rhino was chasing us.
One from Mark here in Derby. Went on holiday for our first romantic holiday to Tunisia years ago. Decided to take my girl into a petting zoo. I got a bag of food to feed the animals. A giant goat then went for me, putting its front legs over my shoulders and proceeding to headbutt me over a fence into one of the pens, covering me in the food and making my nose bleed. I got out of the pen, then the goat and all his mates attacked me again, sending me running and screaming like a girl out of the zoo, with my girlfriend rolling with laughter on the floor.
A tarantula climbed up the bottom of the bed on the sheet.
Yeah.
And it walked all the way up. It's eyeball to eyeball.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, what am I going to do when it climbs over my face? But then a miracle happened. It raised its two front legs and waved them around. And then it turned around and walked down the side of the sheet.
Boris Johnson been attacked by an ostrich. The former PM was enjoying a safari trip with his family when the bird leaned into his car and went oi oi and pecked his hand. In footage shared online, he quickly jerked from the ostrich, don't dirty minds away from the ostrich, and shouted, "Oh, cripes, get hell," before driving off. And so I just set it out there. Have you been attacked by an animal? When I was about 7, says Trevor Jenkins, on holiday in Spain in the 70s, a monkey pulled my long hair. It was long because it was the 70s. I was in floods of tears. And as the family car drove out the car park, an elephant ripped off the car mirror. We got the message. Spanish animals aren't to be trusted. Jeremy, Brittany here from the United States. I was spurred by a rooster in my right foot a few years ago. Spurred? How do you get spurred by a rooster?
One here from Dan in Hampshire. Morning, Mike. As an Aussie that has been dive-bombed by our version of the magpie, which is much bigger, every springtime, the folk in this village need to use the old Aussie trick.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, coming up to just after 3 minutes past 8. It is Bank Holiday weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Friday the 22nd of August. If you're trying to get anywhere, you'll probably find it quite difficult, I would imagine. The car journey will be longer than you thought. The train journey will be probably longer than you thought. And the air journey, if you're flying anywhere, might not happen at all. Because apparently so many flights have been cancelled over the last couple of days that it's all gone a bit wrong, I'm afraid. Front pages this morning, we are bringing to you lots about the hotels and the migrants. Hotels for migrants face a wave of protest, it says on the front page of the Times. Fears of unrest after a record 111,000 asylum claims last year, which is an absolute record. The Times has found that at least 7 demos are set to take place today in Cardiff, Chichester, Bournemouth, Portsmouth, Leeds, Orpington and Altrincham. In addition to that, another 14 are going to go on in Hawley, Cannock, Nottingham, Bristol, Newcastle, Tamworth, Wakefield, Liverpool, Oldham, Exeter, Oxford, Perth and Aberdeen. Another two are being organised in Manchester and Dudley on Sunday. Next week, hotels in Falkirk, Gloucester and Stockport have been earmarked for action. That's without mentioning the Britannia Hotel, of course, in Canary Wharf. And this is all as a result of the decision that was made earlier on this week when a High Court judge basically ordered the Bell Hotel in Essex to close down and kick all the migrants out, basically saying that if you have changed the nature of your business, i.e. you're no longer a hotel anymore because people can't ring up and book in for the night, or people can't walk into the hotel and get a room for the night, whether it be the presidential suite, whether it be, you know, the lowest of the low of a room on the first floor, you know, basically you're not a hotel anymore. So that will affect every single hotel in the land which is currently housing migrants. An all-time high for asylum claims is what it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. 111,000 migrants joined the queue under Starmer. Labour basically in complete and utter disarray. It's being described as completely chaotic what is going on. We haven't seen, I don't think yet, Keir Starmer's first tweet of the day, which I like to call the first lie of the day, but we are going to talk to John Rentoul, who is of course a reasonably big supporter of the Labour government, although even he struggles now to find a reason to actually say they're doing a good job, because the problem for Keir Starmer is that he has to finally acknowledge that there's a problem with all of this migrant hotel business. There are people demonstrating up and down the country, and it's going to turn nasty, I'm afraid. And unless he does something about it, unless he addresses it soon, there is going to be hell to pay. It's as simple as that. Meanwhile, Lucy Connelly, the other big story of the day, is on the front pages as well. Mum's home, it says on the front page of The Sun. Right tweet Lucy free after a year in jail away from her daughter. A victim of two-tier justice is what The Sun says. And we haven't yet spoken to her. We don't know whether she is going to do a deal with a newspaper. She may well do. Front page of the Daily Mail says, as she's freed after 377 days in jail for tweeting about the Southport attack, the inside story of Lucy Connelly's prison torment, because she was treated very badly in prison, much worse than any other people were. She wasn't allowed to go home and visit her family. She wasn't allowed to do anything. And Britain is facing, according to the Daily Telegraph, an autumn of discontent, because the RMT are going to go on strike, the nurses are going to go on strike, the doctors are going to go on strike, and I'm afraid it's all looking like a pretty dismal outlook for the President of the United Kingdom, i.e., to wit, Sir Keir Starmer. Of course, he's not the President, he's the Prime Minister. He'd like to be the President. Let's get a voice note from Mark.
Yeah, good morning. It's Mark in Lancashire. The idea that these people coming across on the boats are going to work willingly by their own volition is totally mental. They're just going to want an easy life on benefits. And that's the only reason they're coming, because we have a generous social security system. Now, I know this because I've travelled a lot in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia. All these countries, they have people who work, and if you don't work, you don't eat. They don't have a generous social security system. And another thing they don't have is they don't have an influx of all these people from supposedly war-torn countries in Africa and the Middle East flocking there. They just don't go there because they can't get anything for free. Now, that is proof positive of why they come to Europe. And then when they come to Europe and they can't get anything for free, they're flocking across to Britain like wasps round a honeypot.
Yeah, that's a way of looking at it. It's Gaff Prone Friday. Just before we talk to John Rentoul, let's get one from EastEnders.
Shut up! Please! Shut up!
I've no idea why we played that. What is that? It's a gaff from EastEnders. That's how they started the show, apparently. Anyway, there we are. Listen, I don't do everything on this planet. Maybe John Rentoul can give us a little bit of guidance on what we should be doing next. John, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mike. I don't know what's going on EastEnders either, I'm afraid.
I mean, I'm sorry, I don't watch it. I've never really watched it for years, but there we are. the cock-a-doodle-doo scenario going on. There's nothing worse, I imagine, than waking up in Downing Street this morning as Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of this great nation of ours, wondering what on earth we're going to do about the migrant protests and what on earth we're going to do about all of these migrant hotels, which it seems to me have now been ruled by a High Court judge to be effectively not hotels anymore, and they're going to have to kick everybody out of them.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a serious problem, and Keir Starmer doesn't appear to know what to do about the boats. I mean the problem, the fundamental problem is stopping the boats.
Yeah.
If he can't stop the boats, then he will have problems with asylum hotels.
Yeah.
So he's got to stop the boats, and he doesn't seem to be putting enough energy and creativity and urgency into that task. I mean, I've explained before how he is at least doing something, which is better than the Conservatives managed before him, which is to secure the deal with France.
Right.
But that's not going to produce results.
But it hasn't had any effect, has it? It hasn't changed.
Well, it's
anything.
not going to have any effect for a long time, even if it works.
Right.
And the question of whether it works is in the balance.
Well,
so he needs,
let me give you the facts. I mean, since he announced the one-in, one-out deal, basically 2,500 people have crossed into Britain, and none of them have been sent away. And last week...
but the one-in, one-out deal wasn't supposed to produce instant results. It can't do, because the
he didn't say
have
that,
to be
though,
processed and have to go through the legal challenges, which is the whole point of the pilot scheme, is to establish that it is possible.
He said very clearly, John, and we played the video out, and I can find it for you again if we need to. That he said, if you arrive on these shores illegally, you will be detained and returned.
No, he didn't. We had this argument last week, Mike.
He did. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do this week.
I've been on holiday since.
All right, I'll tell you what we're going to do this week. This week we're going to play you what all of the various members of the kind of the immigrant scenario are going to say. First up, we're going to play you Martin Hewitt, who's the Border Security Commander. Have a look at this.
My name is Martin Hewitt, and I am the Border Security Commander. Border Security Command has been developed to ensure that we can deliver collectively all the different elements of the system. So this is not a new organisation coming and having a particular responsibility. It's coming and sitting across all of the different ways that we seek to have a secure and effective border. We've also got the advantage that the government are very clear about how they want to reset the relationship with the European Union, and there's been a lot of really great interaction happening. I will be using my role as Border Security Commander to ensure that we are coordinating across the system. I'm determined to deliver, and I'm confident that how we're going about that will give us the best chance that we've got of success.
Right. Best chance of success at some point in the future. Nobody really knows what that means. I mean, what are all these people doing?
I don't know whether you edited him unfairly there, Mike.
No, not at all.
That did not inspire confidence.
No, it didn't. I'll tell you what, let's try Phil Douglas, who's the Director General of the Border Force.
These gangs aren't like narcos or the mafia. They're much more flexible. You arrest one bunch of them and immediately there are more people there. I think in the past perhaps we've lacked that focus, particularly when it comes to working with countries overseas. These crimes are being committed in France, in Netherlands, in Germany, and we'll need to rely on our international partners to identify, arrest and prosecute these individuals. And that's the focus that the Border Security Command also brings.
There's an awful lot of people getting involved in this stuff, but nothing seems to be happening. They're not doing anything.
Well, but also, smashing the gangs is dealing with the symptom, not the cause. The cause is that people want to come to Britain and are prepared to do almost anything to get here, and the gangs spring up obviously to meet that demand. And as that chap just said, if you disband one gang, another one will spring up in its place because the demand is still there. The only way to deal with this is to cut the demand, and that means making it not worth people's while trying to cross the channel, because they won't be allowed to stay if they get here. Now, that, I mean, we understand that, and yet we seem to be unable to implement it.
Yes. I mean, that's the frustrating part about it, isn't it? Because we've got, you know, many people now aware of the fact that there are hotels in this country which are housing, I think we're told, something like 30 to 35,000 people who have been here.
And it's gone up.
Who have been here for quite some time. The number has gone up since last year. It's, I think, 14% higher than the previous year of people claiming asylum. It's not as if, you know, it's a bit like somebody sort of waking up and going, you know, like the guy in Casablanca, you know, I'm shocked to find gambling going on here, and it's a casino. You go, well, why are you shocked? You've been, it's been looking at it for ages.
They've had a year in government. They've had a year in government, and before they're in government, you know, they knew what the problem was, and yet they don't seem to have had a plan apart from negotiating a deal with the French, which I think is important and is a step forward, but it's not going to satisfy people because it's not going to produce results for at least a year.
Right.
And
but in the short term, though, let's talk about how the immediate position is going to affect Keir Starmer. I mean, I read out to you just this morning from the front page of the Times all of the places where there's going to be demonstrations going on up and down the country. You know, obviously we don't want them to turn nasty. We don't want them to turn, you know, into violent episodes. But any one of them might, because people are very, very wound up. But you're talking about, you know, dozens and dozens of places around the country where people are demonstrating outside hotels where there are currently migrants being put up. And something's going to have to, I mean, he's going to have to address it at some point, and he doesn't seem to want to. He doesn't, you know, Keir Starmer would rather talk about Ukraine than talk about, you know, Uttoxeter.
Well, he's good. He's going to have to, I mean, the government is going to have to find somewhere else to put these people if that injunction is upheld. I mean, part of the problem again is the slow working of the judicial system, because I mean this was an injunction which won't actually which won't, and the issue itself won't actually be decided until I think it's November. And in the meantime they've got to
get out, haven't they?
They've got to find they've got to find somewhere else to put these people,
right?
Which creates its own problems. I mean Robert Jenrick, when he was immigration minister, was pleased with the fact that he'd found places in hotels, because it meant he wasn't using houses in multiple occupation. He wasn't using houses that would otherwise go to tenants.
Right. Well, he was in here just the other day, and I played him that clip, which has been put round by Reform to try and kind of embarrass him, saying that, you know, we're very happy, we've actually commandeered more hotels and we've got more spaces and we're going to put more migrants in them. And he said, in fairness to him, he said, you know, at that time, that was the solution to where we were. Well, you know, it's no longer the solution because the dial has been moved and the dial has changed. I don't hold any candle for Robert Jenrick. I don't know whether that makes him a hypocrite or not. But certainly the idea of putting people in hotels sort of became a thing, didn't it, during COVID? Because it was the only place that they thought they could do it safely without giving alarm to the general populace. Now things have changed. It's actually going to be more dangerous to put them into houses of multiple occupancy in neighbourhoods where people don't want them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you know, in a way, I mean, hotels are obviously a terrible idea, but they may be the best of a bad series of choices. But I mean, all of this goes back to dealing with the cause of the problem, which is people coming over in small boats.
Right.
And you know, if the government cannot tackle that, and you know, it may be too late already, then you know, it is in very deep trouble. I mean, Keir Starmer is already as unpopular now as Rishi Sunak was in the outgoing government last year before the election.
But how is it possible that when we look around the European Union, for example, and you see Greece, and Greece has managed to stop all incoming boats into Crete because they've said, right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start a detention centre. If you come here illegally, we're going to put you in a detention centre. You're not going to be allowed to stay here at all, and then we're going to deport you straight away. And they seem to have managed to do that without any problem with the ECHR, without any problem with the European Union, and they've managed to stop all of their illegal immigration problems overnight.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not totally familiar with the Greek.
Well, that's what they've done.
The Greek situation, I mean, that is not compatible with the European Convention on Human Rights.
Yeah, no, but they've done it.
Refugee Convention.
No, but they have done it, and they've had success doing it, and nobody's complained. Nobody's brought any lawsuits. Nobody has appeared from the European Union or the ECHR and suddenly gone, you can't do that. They've just done it.
Well, I mean, I'll have to look into that. I think that is being challenged, but I mean that is precisely the sort of thing that this government ought to be looking at. I mean,
they're going to have to, aren't they?
I mean, but it is extraordinary that the Conservatives weren't able to do it, and now Labour.
Yeah, but in a funny sort of way. But John, do you not think, in a funny sort of way, as useless as the Conservatives were, and I'm never going to be defending them for what they did during their time in office because they were useless. You know, it seems as though the public have sort of awoken. You know, we've suddenly found ourselves living on an island now where 50,000 people or 50,000 flags have now been flown around the country. People have suddenly discovered patriotism. They've gone, we're not having this anymore. We've been, you know, taken down this road for too long, and we've got too many migrants living here, and we've got too much immigration, and we want it to stop. And so now it's actually now even more pertinent that Labour have to sort this out than it was 3 years ago.
No, but I think that is a product of the uselessness of the Conservatives.
Possibly so.
I think we are, you know, I think things have got worse. I think people voted for lower immigration in the Brexit referendum in 2016.
They did.
They voted for lower immigration in 2019 when they elected Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson betrayed them very badly. They wanted to punish the Conservatives for that betrayal in 2024. They didn't have high hopes that Labour would do any better.
No, do you know he promised that he would bring net migration down to 20,000.
Who did?
Boris. He said in 2019, before the election, that we will bring a net migration down to 20,000. I mean,
what did he do? It quadrupled.
Yeah,
I mean, it's completely
nearly
$1 million
useless.
a year.
Exactly. You know, but this is the thing. People are so fed up with hearing promises made and promises broken. You know, Keir Starmer likes to say promises made, promises delivered. You know, he's delivered the square root of sweet FA, apart from the fact that
that's why Labour has to get a grip on this, or else the Labour
but why then does he not in any way, shape or form ever tweet about it? In all the tweets that he puts out about how he's, you know, saving the world from Vladimir Putin and all the rest of it, he doesn't ever tweet about the migrant problem.
No, he does.
He says he's I'll tell you what he says.
I've seen tweets.
He says
where he's boasting about you can't expect
what he says is that he's stopping the boat. So what he says is he's clamping down. I can read you some of them if you want.
I've read them.
I'm determined to smash the business model used by people smugglers, and I'm taking joint action with our allies to make it happen. But except he's not. He's not doing anything like that.
He is, Mike.
And then he says, if you smuggle people into this country, you will face arrest, prosecution, and a jail sentence. Also incorrect, because he hasn't prosecuted more than about a handful of people over the time.
Well, you will face arrest. It's weasel words, isn't it? It's saying
crap,
there is a chance that you might be arrested.
It's rubbish.
It's not good enough. Absolutely.
Right.
Couldn't agree with you more.
But when is he going to acknowledge?
The lack of urgency.
But when is he also going to acknowledge the fact that people in this country are sick to death of hotels being used in their constituencies and in their neighbourhoods to house these people? He's never mentioned any of the protests around asylum hotels. He's never mentioned it.
Well, yes, but I mean, the question is, can he deal with the cause of the problem, which is the small boats? And until he does that,
I get that.
Nothing else matters.
Everything else matters, particularly the disquiet that is being felt up and down the country. Like I said, let me read you the list again. You know, these are going to be coming today. Cardiff, Chichester, Bournemouth,
you're rather hoping that trouble will bring.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that he can't ignore it. But he hasn't addressed it. Why does he not get on the bloody phone or get on, in front of a camera and do a tweet and ask people?
I don't want him to do a tweet or get in front of the camera. I want him to sort out the problem, Mike.
Well, what's he going to do about the protest, though?
Well, we'll worry about the. I mean, last weekend we were told there were going to be protests all over the country. There were some crowds too deep, outside a couple of hotels. But I mean, it's going to get worse. There's no question
they are going to get worse, John, and he has to.
Just tweeting and going in front of the camera is not going to solve that.
No,
problem.
he needs to come out. No, he needs to. No, I'm sorry. He needs to come out and he needs to say to people who are unhappy about the fact that they've got migrants living in their neighbourhoods and in their constituencies. He needs to come out and address it. And he needs to say he's going to do something about it.
Well, yeah, but every time he says that, you say, "Oh, well, that's no good because that's just work."
No, because he
and you're quite right until he actually has some action.
No, because he hasn't come out and said it. If he came out and said something and I was critical of it, you could be right in saying that. But he hasn't come out and said anything because he's never said anything about it. He's never mentioned it.
I'm not sure that's true. I mean, yeah.
Well, you tell me when he has ever said anything about migrant protests outside hotels. He hasn't.
Okay, all right. He hasn't. But no. I mean, I think the important thing is can he solve the problem? And so far, he doesn't seem to be able to.
Well, demonstrably, the answer is to that question, he hasn't been able to solve the problem. Because he doesn't. He seems to be. My point, I suppose, is what I'm trying to get at, is that it's almost as if he's hoping it will go away. Like a lot of the things that he does, he's hoping that he won't have to address it because he doesn't really want to. But
well, he must know that that's not going to work. I mean,
you would think so.
He must know that his government is in very serious trouble.
Yeah.
Little more than a year after it after it was elected.
Yeah.
And unless he can get a grip on this problem, then he's going to go down in history as a failed prime minister.
Well, so I think that's already happened, hasn't it?
Well, it may indeed it may already have happened, but there is a possibility, I suppose, that he could turn it around if he can stop the boats, and yet he doesn't seem to be trying hard enough to do that.
Yeah, no, I get that. We're going to take a little break. Stay with us if you can, because I've got more to talk to you about. This is John Reynolds, Chief Political Commentator at The Independent. A total of 32,059 asylum seekers are housed temporarily in UK hotels at the end of Labour's first year in government. That's up 8% on the same point 12 months ago. I rest my case. This is Talk.
A country that has freedom of speech will never send anyone to jail for hurty words they wrote on Twitter, right?
Well, what Lucy Connelly wrote on Twitter was very much in the heat of the moment, that appalling morning last year when we all discovered the extent and the brutality and the depravity of Axel Rudabakana's rampage, which of course killed 3 young girls and nearly killed another 8.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. 28 minutes past 8. Blimey, we're nearly in the final hour of the show. Coming up at 10 o'clock, Mark Dolan is here in for Alex Phillips. So a return of the man that was here many, many moons ago and has now come back to the fold. John Reynolds here with us, political commentator from The Independent. Let me play you this, John, if I may. This is National Crime Agency boss Rob Jones. Here's what he's got to say about the migrants.
Thing which will solve the organised immigration crime, it requires concurrent pressure in a number of different areas at the same time. It's not as simple as just identifying a warehouse where drugs are being stored, linking somebody to that and arresting them. The parts of the evidential jigsaw are spread across Europe and much further afield. There isn't one thing which...
It's the evidential jigsaw, apparently, that's what it's all about. The jigsaw for Downing Street and the grid and whatever it is that they look at is not looking great, is it? Britain facing an autumn of discontent, says on the front page of the Telegraph. The tube strike's going to come up with the RMT. There's more doctor strikes coming. There might be a nurses' strike. West Streeting is saying in the papers today that Labour has not done enough to persuade voters that its plans will change Britain for the better. I mean, I don't remember a worse government than this. I'm sorry to say this, but
well,
you know, I just
got a short memory, Mike.
I can't remember a government that's been this bad. No, seriously, honestly.
No, seriously, Mike. Your memory is a bit defective. This often happens, actually. You know, things are bad now, and they were, you know, they used to be good in my day. You can surely remember back to 2022, the shortest-lived premiership. In history.
Of Liz, are you going to say Liz Truss?
Yes, that was worse than the situation is now.
Well, it might have been, but it was like for 28 days and it was gone. It was finished. It was done. Yeah. You know, I mean, they didn't even have a chance to be this bad because they didn't get to do anything. Basically.
Well, because they were so bad that...
yeah, but you do know that the gilt yields, for example, now are much worse than they were under Liz Truss. You know, it was 5.1%. 5.1% under Liz Truss, now 5.6%.
Yes, because interest rates have gone up around the world.
5.6%. No, they haven't.
Perfectly well know.
No, they have not. Interest rates have come down. What are you talking about? Interest rates have come down. They keep boasting that interest rates have come down 4 times.
Long-term interest rates you're talking about on the gilts?
No, on the gilts, which is the yields, different from interest rates. They were 5.1% under Liz Truss, which collapsed the economy.
I think you don't know what you're talking about.
No, 5.6% now. So how is that in any way better than it was under Liz Truss? We are now
because under Liz Truss it was a temporary spike. It was an emergency response to a crisis, which she engineered and had to U-turn out of. The fact that long-term interest rates have gone up since then is a gradual.
Yeah, but the economy is in worse shape now than it was under Liz Truss. That's the point.
No, I don't think
now owe more money.
I don't think that's
true.
We
now, our borrowing is bigger now than it's ever been for 27 years.
Well, borrowing always goes up. Yes.
What do you mean it always goes up?
Well, it always goes up.
What? So if we go back through history,
the last time the government actually repaid any debt, I think, was Gordon Brown in the year 2000.
Yeah, he also sold off all the gold when it was a low price, which wasn't very smart either.
That is just a ridiculous and illiterate attack.
Well, that's what he did.
The government to get out of the gold speculation business.
No, but Gordon Brown sold all of our gold off when it was at a low price, which meant that we ended up actually losing an awful lot of money.
That doesn't look great, but you cannot be in favour of the government being in the commodity speculation business.
No, what I'm saying is that Gordon Brown made a massive mistake by doing that, and he was supposed to be the Iron Chancellor.
It was perfectly reasonable.
Well, you've just admitted that it was a bad idea.
No, I said obviously it was in retrospect. Yeah. It didn't work out well because the gold
price didn't work out well. So in retrospect, it didn't work out well. It's not the same as saying it was a bad idea. Is that what you're telling me?
It was not a bad idea. No, it was a perfectly sensible idea.
Yeah. Right. Okay, but it turned out to be a bad idea later.
Well, this sometimes happens in life, Mike.
It does. Like me getting you on to actually assume that you're going to talk any sense at all. But anyway, listen, we've got to go because I'm being told by my producer we're out of time. It's great to see you. John, thank you very much indeed. Happy bank holiday weekend. Let's get a voice note from Tony on the migrants.
Morning, Michael. Tony from North Somerset. Every single one that's coming here into this country, the 50,000, there seem to be 60,000 under this useless government. Every single person who's come on a dinghy, on the back of a lorry, by a horse and cart, or any other type of mean, has entered the country illegally. Therefore, it makes them a criminal. In America, Donald Trump has reduced immigration by 0% for 3 months on the trot. Not one illegal alien or asylum seeker has entered the country under his regime. And it is working. America is working. Everything is getting back on its feet over in the States. What hope have we got when our justice system will not prosecute these people? Again, I still don't understand why the Royal Navy as a deterrent has not been deployed down the channel. Keep up the good work, mate.
Tony, very good message. Thank you very much indeed. Coming up next, we're going to speak to Katy Lamb, MP, Shadow Home Office Minister, and of course MP in Kent. I think it's the Weald of Kent that she's in. Check out, by the way, if you haven't done it, the Independent Republican Mike Graham's YouTube channel, which is where you can find everything that we do, including all the shows that we've ever done, including Plank of the Week, including all the various clips that you might want to see. It's a thing of great beauty, and it's a thing that you should go and look at if you've got a few moments at the weekend, because you might be looking for me, having not listened to me for a couple of days. Right now, we're going to be talking about the hotel migrant problem. More than 111,000 people claimed asylum in the year ending June 2025. And regardless of what John Reynolds says, things have only got worse. It's got to be said. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:37. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. Mark Dolan's here. A total of 33,059 asylum seekers being housed temporarily in UK hotels at the end of Labour's first year in government, up 8% on the same point 12 months ago. We've also heard from the front page of the Times this morning there's going to be a bunch of protests outside many of these hotels in this day alone. Cardiff, Chichester, Bournemouth, Portsmouth, Leeds, Orpington, Altrincham, 14 more in areas including Hawley, Cannock, Nottingham, Bristol, Newcastle, Tamworth, Wakefield, Liverpool, Oldham, Exeter, Oxford, Perth, Aberdeen, Manchester. There's going to be some in London as well, of course. Let's talk now to Katy Lamb, MP, Shadow Home Office Minister, to get from her what it is that is going on. Katy, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Thanks very much for joining us. This is a massive problem in this country. Keir Starmer seems to not want to administer it or indeed actually admit that it's going on.
It is a massive problem. There is no question about that. And whether or not the Prime Minister recognises it will not change reality.
No, it really won't. But why does he not want to actually admit that it's going on?
I think because the government has no real solution for it. So they have talked a lot since the figures came out yesterday about how they are moving through all of the asylum applications. Well, all that means is that people will be moving to a different part of the system. They'll be moving out of the asylum system, and so their costs will no longer be charged to the Home Office, but they will still be charged. They talk about closing down hotels and moving people out of hotels. Well, these people are not going to cease to exist. Where are they going to go? A lot of the other options are as bad as hotels, if not worse. The only thing that will properly work in anything like the medium term is to detain people when they arrive here and to deport them as quickly as possible. And the Prime Minister is not willing to say that, which means he's not really willing to solve this problem.
Right, and that is a real kind of deficit, I think, for this government, isn't it? Because they have inherited a terrible situation, but it has got worse under their under their guard, if you like. And they keep appointing people. We've been listening to Martin Hewitt, Border Security Commander, this morning. Phil Douglas, who's with the General Border Force. We've got the National Crime Agency guy called Rob Jones. They all talk a good game, but none of it is actually making any difference.
The only thing that will make a difference is people knowing that if they come to this country, then they can't stay. So, of course, the National Crime Agency do good work trying to dismantle the supply chain of serious organised criminals that facilitate these crossings and make a lot of money off doing so. But a lot of this work is happening in other countries. There is always another crime group ready to spring up to take the place of one that's been defeated. The only thing that will work is to cut demand for people coming across the channel in the first place, because they know that if they come here that they can't stay. Everything else is window dressing.
Exactly right. And what about the problem now with the people that we've got in these hotels? Because now that the ruling has come down from the High Court, the Essex Hotel, for example, the Bell Hotel, I think in Epping, is an illegal entity, if you like. They're going to have to kick people out of hotels. What are they going to do with them? There's not enough spaces. There's not enough room. There's not enough houses to put them in. The government put out a clarion call yesterday for 5,000 more houses so they can house these people. But, where are they all going to go?
Unfortunately, we don't know, because the government hasn't told us. The Prime Minister seemed to say a couple of months ago in the Treasury Select Committee that there was lots of possible housing that people could be. That's not true. So it's not clear to me that there is anywhere appropriate that these people can go. And there's also the fundamental question of people who have come here illegally, people who have jumped the queue, whether or not their asylum claim is genuine, have come here from France, which is a totally safe country. We have a lot of homeless people already in this country, a lot of people who are struggling. So many people up and down the country are working so hard to make ends meet. And if you come here illegally, you'll be housed in a hotel, you'll be fed, you'll be given spending money. We've seen some unbelievable stories about some of the things that people have been given who've come here illegally. I just think that that's wrong, and I think the public think that it's wrong too.
Absolutely. There's a guy in the Daily Mail yesterday who would appear to have been some kind of trader who's living in a hotel in London, in the Barbican I think it was, who has got a wife in Dubai, who works for a Dubai investment fund, and who's sitting here boasting about the fact that he doesn't pay any tax, and that he can't go home because he says that he's gay, all of which is a complete lie. And yet, he's just rinsing the public here, the taxpayers in this country, for his free food, for his free lodging, for everything else. It's extraordinary.
The way the system is set up is crazy. The incentives for people's behaviour are pretty much completely wrong.
It really is incredibly difficult to figure out how it's going to change, though, because until such time as the government accepts that these people shouldn't be here and that they will therefore have to deport them, there is no kind of way out of it, is there?
So at the moment, of course, as you say, we are under a Labour government who don't seem to want to do what is necessary to fix this problem, which is to have a deterrent and to deport people. It's to increase our detention capacity and to remove people either at home, if that's safe, or somewhere else that's safe for them to go. Until and unless they accept that, and the only solution that anybody has come up with that would actually fix that problem is to send people where it's not safe for them to go home to Rwanda. The Labour government, for purely ideological reasons, scrapped that as one of the very first things that they did when they came into office, despite the fact that they had no alternative suggestion, no real plan to fix this problem. Exactly as we're seeing now, all of the numbers are going in the wrong direction. It's just going up and up and up. It's shameful.
Yeah. Shameful is right. Katy, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Katy Lamb, Shadow Home Office Minister, of course, and Tory MP for Kent, the Weald of Kent, I believe it is. 0344 499 1000. On the NHS, Carl in Telford says this, the NHS is a blooming joke. The NHS appointment madness. My daughter has an appointment next week, and if I don't confirm when they call me, they will automatically cancel it. Accordingly, I have a blooming job, and I'm working when they're likely to call. Utterly clueless. Labour out now. Morning, Mike. Great shows all week, says Sue from Essex. Two brilliant young ladies, Chloe Dobbs and Reem Ibrahim. Keep up the great work. Oh, I'm very happy to do so. Cliff in Berkshire says, in order to live within the law, citizens need to know what the law is. How can we know what the law is when it seems to change daily and depending on who is allegedly breaking a law? Well, I mean, I guess you're talking about Lucy Connelly there. Lucy Connelly, of course, on the front pages this morning because she's back in the bosom of her home and in her family, thank goodness, after spending 377 days, I think it is, according to the Daily Mail, behind bars for a tweet. Incredible. 8:45.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 8:48. This from Keith in Lincolnshire. Morning, Mike. Great show as always. Lucy should have never gone to prison. Talking about Lucy Connelly. What about Mike Amesbury, who was on video violently attacking a man, only got a 10-week suspended sentence? If I'd done that, I'd probably get 3 years. One rule for them and one for us. Two-tier justice, so obvious. I keep speaking up. Please keep speaking up for us, Mike. Yeah, I will. Absolutely will. Of course, that's what I do. Lots more to talk about this morning between now and 10 o'clock, of course. Mark Dolan here in for Alex Phillips. Right now, though, it's time for 90 minutes in 90 seconds with The Sun.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Justin Allen's here, Chief EFL writer with The Sun newspaper. Justin, very good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Good to see you. Let's talk about Chelsea boss Enzo Maresca. What's going on?
Yeah, we've got a back page story this morning from our Chelsea correspondent Dan King. Enzo Maresca has said he'd rather risk a striker crisis than keep hold of his unhappy pair, Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku. The club signed João Pedro and Liam Delap up front, but Maresca is looking to bring in backup reinforcements rather than give a chance to those two. Chelsea are hoping to offload both before the transfer window shuts, and despite both of them being fit, they won't be involved tonight in what is going to be a massive London derby at West Ham.
And West Ham, of course, got their own problems. Graham Potter under huge pressure, the manager. They lost their first game. What's going on there?
I mean, normally this time of the year, everyone's optimistic about the new season, aren't they? But at West Ham, that's not the case. Got absolutely thumped by Sunderland 3-0 at the weekend. And you have to remember, Sunderland only came up through the playoffs. And there's calls for Potter to go now. I mean, he's lost 10...
After one game?
After one game, yeah. I mean, he came in January, but he's lost 10 out of 20 games. I mean, a lot of West Ham fans were up in arms last season, really. It was an absolutely shocking season. I mean, David Moyes obviously won them the Conference League, and then they replaced him with Julian Lopetegui. But Potter's come in, and he's even worse. I think he's only won 5 of his 20 matches in charge. So a lot of unhappy Hammers out there.
Not happy at all. Alexander Isak, latest, he's been spotted training alone.
Yeah, he's pulled that hissy fit, didn't he, the other day? Wants to go to Liverpool. So we got some exclusive pictures actually in the paper this morning of him looking very crestfallen, all on his own, just hours after, stamping his feet, quite frankly, like a spoilt child. There's a really good piece actually with Harry Redknapp, who draws parallels with when he was manager at Tottenham and Luka Modric wanted to join Chelsea. But they did it in different ways. Although Modric wanted to leave and go to Chelsea, he did it in a very friendly way, very professional way. He asked to be left out of one of the games, but it was all done diplomatically. And in the end, Harry Redknapp managed to persuade him to stay, and he stayed another year. And of course, Modric's gone on and had a fantastic career, and has always been professional, and that's probably why he's still playing at the age of 40.
No, sure. And finally, a medical for Eze today.
Yeah, worst kept secret really. Eberechi Eze on his way to Arsenal. He has his medical today. Arsenal have actually hijacked Tottenham's move for him. But apparently Oliver Glasner, the Crystal Palace manager, actually wanted to play him last night in their 1-0 Conference League win over Fredrikstad. However, Eze rang him in the morning and said he was feeling unwell. So he called in sick. So make of that what you will.
Excellent stuff. Justin, great to speak to you. Thank you very much indeed. Justin Allen, Chief EFL writer for The Sun. That was, of course, 90 minutes in 90 seconds.
90 minutes in 90 seconds from The Sun.
Pam says this, Mike, I don't understand when these illegals arrive on our shores. They need to be on a crash course giving them the basics of our laws. The way we treat women, if they break these laws, they will be deported. Well, you would think that would be pretty straightforward stuff, wouldn't you? You would think that actually people would understand that that's what they need to do, to assimilate in order to come to this country. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about Russia, another country, because Will Geddes is here, security specialist, of course, a man that knows a thing or two about protecting the lives of the rich and famous. He's been unbelievably banned from travelling to Russia. His name has appeared on some kind of watch list from the Russian perspective. Let's find out what that's all about. Will, very good morning to you, sir.
Здравствуйте, Michael. Здравствуйте.
Slovia, as they would say. How have you managed to upset the Russians?
Well, there could be a number of different reasons, Michael. But you know, obviously, I won't be able to go into to much detail on that. Obviously, here in my safe house, which I've obviously got to be in right now. But yes, this list came out only middle of this week of 21 individuals who have been named on the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Russia's if you like, stop list, which basically means you can't go to Russia, which is a shame because Moscow is very beautiful at this time of year. And I'm going to have to cancel my plans for the Black Sea. But one thing I could say, Michael, is, you know, I'm very often on your show talking about events with Russia, Ukraine and the like. So I think you can take the glory. You obviously have a very prestigious and audacious audience. You could probably put the Kremlin amongst them now.
Yes, I guess so. Well, I mean, slightly disturbingly, I haven't been banned. I mean, apparently I can go there if I want to, but I'm not sure I would. But in terms of the threat level, and you talk about cyber security quite a lot, I know. Is there a genuinely bigger threat from Russia now than there was?
Yes, there is. There's a huge threat, and any of those other 20 people that were listed on this stop list this week will have to up their cyber security, because certainly actors, third-party actors acting on behalf of that particular state will quite often run a number of different types of operations against people who are on stop lists. And that will be obviously cyber intrusion, and that is obviously trying to get into your files. And you can imagine I have pretty good cyber security, Mike, because obviously I look after a lot of very important people and I want to make sure that their data is safe. But secondly, also disinformation. So there can be stuff that is put online by those third parties which tries to undermine, discredit those individuals. But there's a really interesting mix of people, and I felt quite honoured to be amongst them.
Yes.
There are many in my industry who are very envious that I'm on this list.
Yes. I mean, I think the trouble is that we all assume that everything's going to be fine until it isn't, you know. I mean, I'm just, funnily enough, just looking at my phone now, and I'm trying to get into something that is fairly sensitive, shall we say, a financial area for my where some of my money is, and it's locked me out, and I can't get into it. And I'm thinking to myself, does that mean I've been hacked? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it might have been, Mike. I mean, certainly, you know, you're a very prominent individual and spokesperson, and, you know, talkTV has such a broad audience, not only here in the UK, but also overseas. And, you know, we all have to, unfortunately, apply good housekeeping on our cybersecurity and having good sort of anti-ransomware, anti-malware, making sure we're updating the software when the software releases come out. And one of the things that certainly we're very conscious of for our clients is making sure that their information remains private. Certainly with some of the things our current government's doing right now, that's becoming harder and harder. But certainly I would say to have that air of suspicion, Mike, is a good thing, and to question it rather than its technology falling down. To be cybersecurity conscious is never a bad thing, Mike.
No. And in terms of your business itself, I mean, if you're sort of banned from going to Russia, whether or not you're planning to move there or go there, is that good for you? Is it sort of a badge of honour, if you like?
Well, it's a badge of honour, yeah, in some ways, I suppose. But on the second level, does it make any difference to my business? No, not really. Vast majority of my clients are international. They're UK bound, some of which, you know, I have had a few interactions with countries which are enemies, if you like, or certainly opposition to Russia. So that, you know, as you know, certainly from the many lunches that you and I have had, and hopefully we'll have another one very soon, and where we've shared war stories between us, there are some interesting parts of the world which are always going to be the focus of the Russian state. So, you know, they're protecting their own nation. But to be honest, this stop list to a certain extent, Mike, is probably more of a tit for tat. You know, there's always sanctions being issued against Russia, and they will reciprocate.
Right, absolutely right. Well, listen, Will, good to see you, and hopefully you will be looked after by all of your various cohorts around the world. Thank you very much indeed for talking to a security specialist. Will Geddes there, banned from Russia, believe it or not. Incredible. He's also going to show up on Plank of the Week this week because we filmed that just the other day. And we've got, I think, a little clip for you. Here we go. Has it stalled? Oh, it's just stalled. Never mind. Does that mean we can play the voice note from Judith? Come on, Judith.
Good morning, Mike. It's Judy from Altos, West Yorkshire. This government could bring in overnight a law that says you cannot claim any benefits whatsoever unless you've worked in this country and lived for 10 years. And that includes getting social housing, anything to do with benefits. That should sort it all out. And as for letting these illegal immigrants work, who's going to employ them? They've got no backstory. Where are you from? Calais. You know what? I don't know what they're gonna do.
No, I think that's a very good point. The trouble is, some people will employ you regardless of whether you've got a backstory, because if you are, in fact, just an illegal and you want to work in an illegal business, you're able to get a job in that illegal business. And that is the point. Unfortunately, 0344 499 1000 is the number. Coming up, Steve Baker, former Conservative Government Minister, is going to be joining us. We're going to speak to Harry Miller, former police officer, of course, and founder of A Fair Cop, and Nicola Whittaker, who's an employment law consultant, is going to talk to us as well about how many workers are now suffering from heat stress. This is according to the United Nations. I mean, come on, it's not that hot, is it? 0344 499 1000. I'm just going to take off after today and just disappear, I think. Heat stress, that'll do it. I'm Mike Graham. This is Talk.
How much?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome back to Morning Glory. 3 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham. We're into the final hour. Coming up, Steve Baker, former Conservative Government Minister, is going to join us. A total of 32,059 asylum seekers are being housed temporarily in UK hotels at the end of Labour's first year in government. That's up 8% on the same point 12 months ago. In the year ending to June 2025, there were just 2,330 returns of people who had arrived by small boat. That's 7% fewer than the previous year. Record numbers are now claiming asylum in this country, 111,000 people in the year ending June 2025. That's once again up 14% more than the previous year. We learned from the papers this morning that there is much disquiet in the nation about migrant hotels and the places that are housing all of these bozos, right? According to the Times, hotels for migrants face a wave of protests. There's going to be protests today set to take place in Cardiff, Chichester, Bournemouth, Portsmouth, Leeds, Orpington and Altrincham. If you're involved in any of those, if you're in any of those places, please do let us know what it is that you're planning to do. We're also told that some 14 more are going to take place over the weekend in Nottingham, in Cannock, in Hawley, in Bristol, in Newcastle, Tamworth, Wakefield, Liverpool, Oldham, Exeter, Oxford, Perth and Aberdeen. This is, I tell you, an existential problem for this government. Keir Starmer has refused so far to actually address the problem of migrant hotels. He's never mentioned the fact that people are outside protesting against them all along. And it's absolutely and utterly ridiculous. Front page of the Daily Telegraph says Britain is facing an autumn of discontent, and because in addition to all of the problems with migrant hotels and people's disquiet about that, we're going to have strikes all over the place. The RMT are going to strike on the trains, they're going to strike on the tubes. We're going to see passenger numbers expected to rise on London Underground, and yet there won't be enough trains to put them all in. Unfortunately, we're also going to have doctor strikes, we're going to have nurses strikes, we're going to have teacher strikes, we're going to have all sorts of other trade unions pulling out and having a go at this particular government. Front page of the Daily Mail, all-time high for asylum claims. It says 111,000 migrants joined the queue under Starmer, but also the big story as well, the release of Lucy Connelly. She's freed after 377 days in jail for tweeting about the Southport attack, of course. The Mail says they've got the inside story of Lucy Connelly's prison torment. They haven't actually got that, unfortunately. The Sun have got a mum's home. Right tweet Lucy free after a year in jail away from her daughter, aged just 12 years old. We're going to be talking about that in this hour. We're going to be talking about the reduction of our liberty, really, and the reduction of our kind of knowledge of free speech in this country, because despite what Keir Starmer might say, we clearly don't have free speech in Britain, because if you say something that the authorities don't like, they're going to lock you up for it. 0344 499 1000. It's coming up to very nearly 6 minutes past 9. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Now, we were saying earlier that it is gaff-prone Friday, so we've got another gaff for you for a moment. But we're also talking about North Sea oil, because apparently they've discovered, the Norwegians, by the way, have discovered a massive new oil field in the North Sea. And according to Sophia, she says, Ray, the North Sea oil. Do you know Norway invests the proceeds of the North Sea oil into a sovereign wealth fund, which stood at $1.4 trillion in December 2023. So you can imagine what it is now. We have such a stupid, useless government who just want to get us into debt. Absolute imbeciles, from an empire to obscurity. What a joke. Yeah, very good point, Sophia. Thank you very much indeed for that. Mike, not only is net zero pushing up the price of energy, but it's also just how much tax revenue is Rachel Reeves missing out on when we tax North Sea oil and gas at 78%, says Times from Southampton. I know. You do wonder, don't you, when they're talking about saving money and making revenue actually count for the country, you would think that Rachel Reeves would consider actually reopening the oil and gas reserves of this country and actually taxing them, because that would make an absolute fortune. But no. Here's BBC's MasterChef, gaff of the day, using the same cutaway section of Greg Wallace time and time again. Check it out.
I love a rack of lamb, but it scares me. Don't want it underdone. I want beautifully browned and crispy on the outside and pink in the middle.
One of my favourite desserts is a creme brulee, but to give some continuity, I'm adding some cardamom and vanilla into it.
Wow, you're up against it, aren't you?
I am, yeah, but isn't that what I'm here to do? Push myself, take a risk.
You've got to rely upon that one singular item in a mould with a crispy top to deliver absolutely, otherwise you've got no dish.
Yeah. Well, I've never faulted so far, so let's hope I don't fault now.
That's my Greg Wallace impersonation. I could do that. I could be paid a fortune to be on MasterChef, couldn't I? And let's talk to Steve Baker, former Conservative Government Minister, who's never lost for words. Steve, very good morning to you.
A very good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me on. I shall try not to revert to that fixed expression.
Yes, quite. We are in one hell of a mess, aren't we? We've got all these people in hotels, 32,000 apparently being housed temporarily, we're told, in UK hotels as of now. And effectively, a High Court judge has ruled that actually these hotels are not hotels anymore, and so technically all of them could have to be forced to empty their bedrooms and get these people all out into other plabut
it raises the question of where are they going to go. But I notice it's now Labour, Conservative, DUP, Liberal Democrat. But the whole spectrum of councils, reform indeed councils, they're all looking at doing this. But, you know, you're right. We face mass protests, we face strikes, and we face fiscal crisis. So, you know, Labour are back. It is a really terrible, terrible mess. I'm not absolutely convinced that Labour will respond to protests. I'm afraid we're going to have to watch it and...
I mean, the problem is that there isn't anywhere else for them to go, is there? I mean, they're going to have to grasp the nettle here and either deport them or say we're going to have to put them in some kind of camp because we haven't got any actual, you know, residential homes that we can put them in. Because we're talking 32... You can't suddenly just house 32,000 people around the country in houses, can you?
But it's a serious challenge, however you cut it. You know, it is a serious problem. But I want to be really clear. From my point of view, you must always judge people by the conduct of their character. In other words, what they have done.
Yes.
And what the people in these hotels have done is come to the UK illegally. They've crossed in small boats. They've got here illegally. If people have come here illegally, I'm perfectly content that they should be effectively imprisoned in camps wherever they can be established. Now, it's got to be done in a way which is humane and we can tolerate. But really, I'm perfectly content if they've come across the channel in boats that they should be denied their liberty. You know, while they're processed, and we need to make sure people are promptly deported. It's about a quarter of people who are coming in boats. A significant minority, actually, are coming here legally as refugees, but a great proportion come here through legal routes with visas, and then they claim that they're refugees afterwards. So these are tricky problems to solve, because if somebody's come here legally with a visa, you can't imprison them for that. But if somebody, as you're showing on screen now, if they're coming across in a small boat like this, they should expect to be detained and they should expect to be deported. But of course, it's not in Labour's spirit or politics to get on and handle people robustly and take away their incentives to be here.
But one of the problems with the legal migration in this country is that people do come legally and on visas and then they overstay the visa and they basically continue to live here. And some of them then claim asylum as well. And you have to say, Steve, that under the Tories, that was a massively expanded operation. People were coming here on work visas, particularly on social care work visas, and seemingly they never actually ever did the job that they were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so I agree with you, and I've often wondered what my colleagues in the Home Office were doing. I don't like to say it, but it's true, and I was in rebellion often. We couldn't govern the country through rebellions. Yeah. But look, I've got a lot of experience with this because Wycombe's a very diverse community, about 20% British Asian, about 5% Caribbean. So migration issues are really present here. There's a twin problem that on the one hand, particularly during the period of our EU membership, European grandma could come and go as she saw fit, but Asian grandma wouldn't be able to. Particularly, that was a problem if a new mum was, say, suffering from postnatal depression. You know, it's actually an injustice that they couldn't, in the ordinary way of things, get grandma over for a normal family visit while next door the neighbour was going to and fro as she saw fit. So I proposed to ministers a system of using bonds to deal with the problem that you mentioned. I tested it with quite a few of my constituents and they liked it. My idea was that people should, UK residents, should say, I guarantee that my visitor will go home, and I'm putting up, say, £20,000, and if they don't go home, that money will be forfeit, and that would change the incentives. And actually, I found that local people were willing to accept that we had to tackle this problem of people overstaying, people coming on one pretense and then changing what they were doing. And we've just got to get tough and reasonable about it and say, actually, you need a sponsor. Your sponsor will lose money if you stay.
Right. Did you find that dealing with the Home Office in particular was frustrating in terms of finding out precisely what they knew, what they didn't know about the numbers of people coming in?
Mike, dealing with any aspect of government is frustrating, even including, I have to say, when you're a minister. But if you're a backbencher trying to get information out of government, honestly, it's like trying to get blood out of a stone. Parliament is treated as a problem to be managed by the state, and particularly by most ministers. Parliamentary questions are usually an exercise in trying to deflect from answering the question. I mean, people have seen Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. I mean, that is, I'm afraid, a documentary, not a sitcom. So, it's always frustrating dealing with government. But what really must happen is ministers need to be absolutely clear with officials, and there's no need to engage in bullying or any mistreatment. They just need to be very clear with ministers, with officials rather, what their policy is. I mean, officials will actually follow ministers' instructions. The problem comes that ministers very often are disinterested in their brief or not very clear or don't think things through carefully. But if ministers govern well, the civil service will respond, and I'm absolutely clear about that.
Right.
What we need is for ministers to get a grip. That's not very likely with Labour in power, I'm afraid.
No, but I mean, looking at what the Home Office does and the way the Home Office apparently seems to operate, it looks like an organisation that is not fit for purpose. It seems from the outside anyway.
Well, yeah, that certainly does appear to be the case, but I want to be very clear, because I know this will be heard by officials as well as by people who are angry about their performance, that the problems that the Home Office tries to solve are extremely difficult. I mean, I remember the Windrush scandal. It was a real scandal that people who had been here in this country contributing, being stand-up members of the community, suddenly faced being deported and told they had no status.
Yeah.
It was outrage, and I'm talking decent, humble, working people who anyone would be glad to have as a neighbour. And that emerged because of the mistakes made, I'm afraid, in trying to make this a difficult place to be for people. The problems faced by the Home Office, I'm afraid, are delicate and difficult, but this particular problem of how to handle people who have come here illegal shouldn't be that difficult. It should be a question of detaining them if they come illegally. It should be a question of removing their benefits so that it's not an attractive place to be. And it should be a question of deporting them promptly. Now, the Rwanda scheme, when it came, looked like a bit of a joke when it was brought in. It was difficult to defend, but it doesn't look like a joke now, of course. And that's the problem Labour have got, is they shut down the system we put in place to create a disincentive to come.
Yeah, and they didn't replace it with anything. And now they're stuck with the situation that they've now found themselves in, where more people have come, and yet more people will be lining up in Calais because they think they might be able to actually get in legally on this one-in, one-out scheme, because...
Well, that's it. The one-in, one-out scheme is totally inadequate, only addresses about 6%.
It's ridiculous.
It's a merry-go-round. It is ridiculous, yes. I do think we have to confront the possibility that these are really systematic and organised attempts to drive people into the UK for the purpose of creating political disruption. I think if you look at what various members of the leaders in the intelligence and security community have said, you have to wonder whether it's Russia encouraging people to come. I mean, the incentives are strong anyway. But, the full weight of our intelligence and security apparatus should be brought to bear against the criminal gangs. That was an argument I won in relation to fraud being perpetrated out of foreign countries. I'm talking about GCHQ and others using signals intelligence to track down where TikTok videos, etc., are coming from and go after those who are encouraging people to come. It's not on, it's creating major political and economic problems, social problems in the UK. But the full might of the state should be used to stop it.
No, indeed. Let's talk about Lucy Connelly, because while we talk about detaining people and supposedly returning them, which we can't seem to do, we're perfectly capable of detaining an ordinary kind of, woman who apparently broke a very, very small section of the law and ended up doing 377 days in Chokey. She was released yesterday. Lots of questions being asked about why she was treated as badly as she was, why she was singled out, it would seem, for punishment, and why she was never allowed out to see her family, why she was never given the same privileges as other prisoners who have committed perhaps worse crimes than she had. Was she a political prisoner in your view?
Oh, well, I don't think it's fair to say that she was a political prisoner. Look, there's three things about this. Did she break the law as it stands? Was her sentence proportionate, and should the law change? So I think it is fair to say that she broke the law as it stands. Lord Sumption, the former Supreme Court judge, a very sound man, although we've disagreed on some things, but Lord Sumption was very clear she broke the law. Her sentence definitely was not proportionate. I mean, the comparison has been made to, child rapists who had suspended sentences and so on. Given the prison overcrowding crisis, I think her sentence should have been suspended and she should have been released. So her sentence was certainly disproportionate. And the third point is, as a member of the Free Speech Union, I was very pleased to see our General Secretary, Lord Young, saying we should adopt the American approach on this particular issue, that to be convicted, that the court must be shown that somebody both intended to incite violence and also that it was likely to result in violence. I think with Lucy Connelly's words, she probably didn't intend to incite violence. And almost certainly it was unlikely that what she'd said would do so. So she would not have been convicted under the American system. I think we should almost certainly adopt that. But yeah, was she guilty? Yes. Was it proportionate? No. Should the law change? Yes.
Yeah, I wonder whether we should be more examining the actual advice that she was given as well, because it seems to me that the only reason that she went to jail and Ricky Jones did not go to jail, the councillor who threatened to, ask people to cut everybody else's throats over a protest, is that she didn't get a chance to go before a jury, and she was clearly sort of, forced into that situation. She was clearly given bad advice by a barrister who probably had been told to do so by the CPS and possibly even by the government, that she should go to prison for a very long time. And that to me is far more worrying than the way that it all played out actually in the court, if you know what I mean.
Well, I would be extremely concerned if a defence lawyer had taken instruction from the prosecution. I mean, if that had taken place, that would be an outrage. I think it's a speculative remark, if I may say so, and it would be extremely...
But, Steve, you and I have been around a long time, and my instinct on these things is generally correct. My belief is that she was told to plead guilty because that was the instruction that came down from the CPS.
Well, so I don't doubt that she was advised by a barrister, and that the barrister's advice varies in its quality. The point really I'm making is that if a defence barrister took the prosecution's instructions, that would be a clear principle on the basis of which we set up our justice system. But it might well be that the barrister advised her badly. That's a matter for her and her barrister and the various processes that are in place. But yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary that a man who offered sought to inspire throat cutting didn't get similarly prosecuted. It is clearly a very different outcome, and I think there's serious questions to be asked there. They should be asked in Parliament by MPs. Somebody should be calling for a debate. Somebody should be leading a debate, and they should be meticulously researching the principles of justice at stake and coming up with really concrete proposals for government ministers on how to not only deliver justice, but be seen to deliver justice. I mean, when you're a member of Parliament and you receive death threats, I've received various, they very often don't go to court, and very often people don't take seriously the words they've said. But I can assure your viewers that if somebody offers that your throat should be cut or that you should be hanged or attacked with acid, when you're the person about whom it's being said, you have to take it seriously. And, I've certainly been through all three. And, I don't insist that they should all have gone to prison, but I do insist that we should take seriously the words that we use.
Yeah, OK. Very good to hear from you. Steve Baker, thank you very much indeed, former Conservative Government Minister. Of course, talks a lot of sense to Steve. Thank you very much for being with us. We'll come back to you again another time. Let's get a voice note from Shane.
Morning, Mike. Shane here. It's Friday, the sun's up, blue skies, and I've been in stitches this morning listening to you, laughing at Peter Blexley snoring. And then again, the EastEnders clip you just played, that reminds me of Prime Minister's questions, when you just want to shout at the radio and think, shut up and answer the question. Well, have a great weekend, and speak to you soon.
Shane, Thank you very much indeed. Good to hear that you're enjoying the show. Good to hear that you can laugh amongst the crazy ruins of what this country has become. Let's get another gaff, though, because it is Friday, and we do try and cheer people up. This is Jeremy Kyle and the Sun's John Lucas.
This is about a place called Knob Lane in the village of Belper in Derbyshire.
Yeah.
And the locals are furious because people keep coming. It started off people come to take a picture next to the sign for a little joke, but people just keep nicking it. And it's
they feel, don't they? They're being shafted by thieves.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it keeps happening. And we look into it, and there's other places across the country that suffer this same fate. It's quite a serious thing. You've got Scratchy Bottom in Dorset. I'm not going to say the one.
No, you are.
I'm not going to say that.
Why?
One.
Get me sacked. What is it?
There's Yorkshire's. There's Backside Lane in Yorkshire, and there's one in Northampton called Bell End Street. Where
Show me the one you didn't want to do. Which one is it? Come on.
This one in Worcestershire.
Night News editor. Hold on. Hands off our knob. Blah, blah, blah. OK, Scratchy Bottom in Dorset, Worcestershire's... Worcestershire's It's a Lane, and it rhymes... do you remember that comedy duo, Blank and Bracket? It rhymes with her first name, back in three.
Blank and Bracket. Hinge, I think, is the word he's looking for. I can't imagine what the name of the street was. Anyway, that's Jeremy Kyle. He's back on Monday, of course. He's also back tonight on Plank of the Week, 7 o'clock. This is Friday. It is August, what is it, the 22nd of August? Blimey, 24 minutes past 9.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
As something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:27. Somebody has just sent me, Parker Batts actually has sent me this, the National Grid right now. An amazing 10.6% of our energy is currently being generated by renewables. 10.6%. Is that the best you can do? 24.6% other sources, which include nuclear and biomass, 39.1% fossil fuels, i.e. gas. Just to let you know that if you were trying to power the company and the country off the grid with renewables, you wouldn't be able to do very much, I'm afraid. Let's get a couple of ideas coming through before we speak to Harry Miller, former police officer and founder of Fair Cop. Most of the people flying patriotic flags are people who work and have put money into the system, says John. A great show as usual, says Steve. The reason there have been no boat crossings in the last few days is purely due to the strong easterly winds. Best wishes, Steve from St Leonards-on-Sea. I know that. I actually reported this the other day, that the reason that there's been literally no boat crossings at all is because the wind is blowing in the wrong direction. This one, David says, he's a very peed-off pensioner. Why is my country of Great Britain going into debt and on the brink of bankruptcy for illegal immigrants, France, Chagos Islands, and all this foreign aid, plus lots more giveaways we probably don't know about? Why? Why? It's a very good question. Let's get a voice note from Ash.
Hi, Mike Ash from Preston. What is wrong with these bozos? The evidential jigsaw. They just remind me of some middle managers from some printing firm or something. He's going, oh yes, the low-hanging fruit and the belt and braces, talking absolute drivel that means nothing to nobody, and that's why nothing gets done in this country. Great show. Cheers.
Ash, I think you're absolutely right. Rob Jones, one of the many talking heads we've heard from today from the National Crime Agency. We've also heard, of course, from the guy who's the head of Border Command, the bloke who's the head of the Border Force. They all talk a very good game. They all say, well, we're going to stop the boats. Well, we're going to create this evidential jigsaw. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Absolute and utter cobblers. They're doing nothing to stop the boats. The only thing stopping the boats is the bloody wind, right? Suddenly there's an easterly wind and so there's no more boat crossings. Well, why don't you just replicate that then? People have said it as a joke. Get a bloody great wind machine and put it out in the middle of the channel and go, all right, I'll tell you what, as long as it's blowing in the wrong direction, you won't be able to come. How about that, you Afghan tossers? Let's hear from Paul Kohler, Lib Dem spokesman. He's got a gaffe for the week.
Surely the demand for rail, though, plateauing is in large part because human habits have changed, not least a rise in work from home. Well, I don't doubt prices and quality have a huge impact on this, but you surely can't reject the idea that another big factor is changing human taste. You, for example, are joining me for this television interview remotely. You haven't needed to travel to the studio. That wasn't something that happened 5 or so years ago.
Well, it is before 8 in the morning, but yes, people's habits have changed, but people like travelling still. The idea that people don't want to travel is ridiculous.
Well, that's not the only thing that's ridiculous, is it? How about your hair? That's pretty ridiculous. That's Paul Kohler. He's the Kevin O'Sullivan of Lib Dems. I don't know what's going on with his hair or what he's even doing. Nobody's ever heard of him before, but he appeared on Sky News this week, and we just thought we'd play that to you. Anyway, listen, Harry Miller's here. Time to get some common sense back on board. Former police officer, founder of Fair Cop. Harry, very good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
I don't know where they found that bloke from. I'm sorry.
No, you made me laugh this morning.
Well, that's the main thing. That's the main thing, because I bet you won't be laughing by the time we get to Monday when the Notting Hill Carnival will have taken place, and no doubt there will be all sorts of carnage, all sorts of mayhem, lots and lots of criminal activity, and probably, and I'm not wishing this to happen, a couple of deaths, which is what happened last year.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely terrible. I've just been reading a report published by the Police Federation and the Metropolitan Police following several years where it's just been an absolute bloodbath. Yeah. I mean, this is the opinion of actual police officers. This is what they say, that it is a shocking disgrace with almost zero enforcement of any law. We wait for a stabbing, respond, then move on to the next stabbing. I mean, what kind of world is this? What's quite interesting, Mike, is that the Notting Hill Carnival company, the founders of it and the organisers of it, they say that it is a safe and spectacular event. Well, the spectacular
No, it
bit.
isn't.
Yes, absolutely, it's spectacular. But safe, not on your life.
No.
It's not safe in the slightest. Last year, we had 8 stabbings, one of which was fatal. We had 2 deaths in total. One guy was kicked to death on the street. 61 blue light workers were assaulted.
Right.
Female officers go there wondering when they are going to be sexually assaulted. It's quite interesting that the poor girl who was murdered, she was murdered with a zombie knife.
Well,
Police
that's the
say,
thing. You know, and if you imagine that those are the most, serious of injuries, imagine how many minor injuries are caused by stabbings and knifings. And it's probably in the dozens, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. One police officer says we're waiting there and we're having thrown at us bricks, blood, and being assaulted with a bike chain. I'll tell you what, Mike. This is from a policing point of view, this is a festival of vampires.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It is just absolutely appalling. And if it wasn't for the ethnic Caribbean element, it would not be allowed.
No.
We would not allow this on the street. If this was a celebration of European culture, and it had this ongoing history of violence, of assault, of sexual assault, of murder, then the organisers would probably become a prescribed group, or at the very least, they would be made to hold their event in a much smaller, much more controlled environment, like a park where it was all ticketed.
Well,
it's
that's the
because
thing.
it takes the DEI thing that we've been that they are allowed year upon year upon year to get away with this.
Well,
And
every year, Harry, you and I probably have had this conversation because we know what's coming. We know what's supposedly going to be the outcome of 3 days of madness. And we always say, and I've said it for many years now, why can't they just move it to Hyde Park, where it can be properly policed, it can be properly ticketed, as you say, you could have a proper entrance and you could have proper walls and fences that won't go around it so that everybody would know what they were doing. But again, it was almost not going to happen this year until Sadiq Khan found another £1 million to pay to the organisers so they could get insurance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I talk about insurance, yes. I mean, again, the Police Federation are predicting that at some point we are going to have a mass casualty event.
Yes.
This sort of complacency where you turn a blind eye to the evidence which is clearly in front of your eyes. This is the kind of incompetence, the kind of negligence that led to a mass casualty event as we saw in Hillsborough.
Yeah.
This is what is going to happen at some point. Now, we hope upon hope that it's not this weekend. We hope that it's not next year.
No.
We hope that a solution is found before this occurs. But sticking your head in the sand in the name of DEI and pretending that it's just going to get better by wishing for it to be better is not a solution. This is the kind of disaster that is going to occur when people run from the facts in the name of DEI.
Yeah, and of course, one of the things that we should also mention, I suppose, is that it's a very difficult job for the police. And you and I mean, you're a former police officer yourself, and you've been very critical of the Metropolitan Police in the past. But it must be pretty hard for the individual police officers to actually try and police this event.
Yeah, absolutely. The crowds are so big that you can be within 6 feet of another officer, but you can't get to them and they cannot get to you because they are packed in like sardines. The welfare facilities, whilst they have improved, they are still appalling. Police officers are expected to do 11, 12-hour shifts, but they're there for longer than that, and then they're back on duty the following morning. There are very few places to go to the toilet, very little water, very little rests. I mean, one police officer said, this is like we are lambs being led to the slaughter. They absolutely dread it, hate it, and despise it. And normally, Mike, in the past, police officers would look forward to an event like this because it give you the opportunity to exercise your policing skills. Something's going to kick off over here. There's going to be an accident over there. It gives you the opportunity to exercise the vast skills that you have, that you've prepared for, that you've trained for. But when it becomes like this, then no matter how skilled you are, there's a critical mass of complete nutters there who make it absolutely impossible for you to police this thing properly and effectively.
Yeah. No, I know. It's an absolute nightmare. And we know it's going to be a nightmare, and yet we still talk about it, and yet it still goes on, and yet on Monday or probably Tuesday we'll be talking about the terrible toll of what happened at the weekend. Harry, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Harry Miller, former police officer, founder Fair Cop. Labour Party saying hotels is a humane treatment of asylum seekers and migrants, says Ash in Lancashire. Why then does talk international law requires an Israeli Prime Minister not required to house Gazan civilians in hotels under international law? I think the point you're trying to make there, Ash, is that if in fact we are supposedly working with the European Commission on Human Rights, that everybody else should be. I'm not sure that's an argument I want to get into, really. It's 9:37. Coming up, we're going to talk to Nicola Whittaker, Associate Director of HR, a global employment law consultancy, because apparently billions of workers, we're told, according to the United Nations, are taking work time off because they're suffering from stress, not caused by anything other than the heat. Believe it or not, this is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 20 minutes to 10. We're very nearly at the end of the show. I mean, it's Friday, it's 22nd of August, it's bank holiday weekend, there's lots going on. Kevin O'Sullivan is making his way down to Cornwall, believe it or not, today, and nobody knows why he's going today. Nobody knows why he would even choose to go today, but he's going to be talking to us about his journey, and he's going to be taking us through it all the way through the day, because I imagine it's going to take him about 7 or 8 hours to get from here down to Cornwall, because that's, unfortunately, the way things are when you travel on the busiest travelling day of the year. Which is what it is today. A total of 32,059 asylum seekers were being housed temporarily in UK hotels at the end of Labour's first year in government. That's up 8% on the same point 12 months ago. Record numbers claiming asylum, of course, as well. 111,000 people have claimed it in the year ending June 2025. That's 14% up on the previous year. And as if that's not enough, have a look at this. This is Plank of the Week. These are the taxes that are currently levied upon us, the British public, right?
Great.
Have a listen to this.
Yep.
Income tax, national insurance,
Yep.
value-added tax, council tax, fuel duty, vehicle excise duty, capital gains tax, inheritance tax, stamp duty, land tax, air passenger duty, corporation tax, dividend tax, alcohol duty, tobacco duty, insurance premium tax, climate change levy, landfill tax, aggregates levy, betting and gaming duties, customs duties, soft drinks industry levy, digital services tax, stamp duty reserve tax, plastic packaging tax, congestion charge, business rates, television licence fee tax.
Can I ask a question, Mike? Can I ask
I
mean, you can understand why people are moving to Dubai.
I'm amazed anybody's got any money at all.
You rattled through that. Can I still fart for free?
No. Crikey. I mean, this is the world we live in now, isn't it? If it moves, tax it. If you're already taxing it, tax it some more. Let's talk to Nicola Whittaker, Associate Director of HR at a global employment law consultancy. Nicola, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
As if the world has not gone mad enough, we're now being told by the World Health Organization and the World Meteorological Organization, which I didn't even heard of before, that basically people are taking loads and loads and loads of time off now because they're suffering from heat stress. What on earth is going on?
Yeah, apparently so. It's interesting, that is a global survey, so it'd be interesting to see how many of those were actually in the UK. As I look outside my window, I can't see the sun here in Manchester.
No,
but...
I mean, it was sunny this morning when the sun rose, but I mean, it's not particularly warm, is it?
No, not currently, but it is absolutely something. We have had warmer weather this year in the UK. You know, that has to be noted. So it is certainly something that a lot of businesses have had to give a little bit more thought to.
Yes, I mean, it says here that people are suffering from increasingly heat stroke, dehydration, kidney dysfunction, and neurological disorders as a result of climate change. I mean, for God's sake.
Yeah, I mean, certainly heat is a hazard, so all businesses do have to take into consideration sort of risks. You know, I think for ourselves in the UK, it does happen. We do get those heat waves, and those could be some of the implications if people are overheated, if they're dehydrated, you know, certainly those that work outside as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was in Dubai back in May, right, and they've got migrant workers who work in Dubai, and they're not allowed to live in air conditioning sort of scenarios, right, and they bust them backwards and forwards from these construction sites, and I'm sure that's really, really dangerous, and I'm sure it's probably not very nice for them. But if they're including them in this survey in the same way that they're including people that come into this office here, I think the survey is a crock of nonsense, really, because of course it's hot in Dubai. It was, I think when I was there, it was 45 degrees at one point in centigrade. But, you know, most people normally don't work in those kind of conditions, do they?
Yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of different countries that are a lot warmer than ourselves, certainly. So that might take up quite a large percentage of that survey. But still something for us to think about. It has been warmer in the UK. We've had quite a lot of nice weather this year. So I think it's still something that a lot of businesses in the UK have had to think about.
Yeah, I mean, as far as in your job and in HR as a general rule, I mean, I'm sure you've heard all the stories that you probably have ever wanted to hear about why people can't do their jobs properly and why they need compensation and why they need to be, you know, given some time off and why they need to go and work from home. I mean, my experience, particularly working in a big office, is that if it's really hot, you're better off going to work because you've got air conditioning, which you don't have at home.
Yeah, well, we get all sorts. You know, people want more holiday requests when the weather's nice. Probably sickness might spike, but yeah, we get both. Sometimes people want to work from home when it's nice weather, or actually some people want to work in the office because their office might be more air conditioned and more comfortable than we are at home. So yeah, it can just vary depending on businesses, but we do get all sorts of stories.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. I mean, we're about to talk to a colleague of ours called Kevin O'Sullivan, who's made the mad decision to decide to take 2 weeks off work, which is already a bad idea. And today, the busiest day of all days in terms of travelling, he's going to drive to Cornwall. I mean, if you were his HR advisor, would you tell him not to?
I mean, that's completely his choice. Are you talking about in terms of traffic or in terms of the weather?
Well, just in terms of general stress levels. I mean, you know, one thing you don't want to do is travel on the Friday of a bank holiday weekend. All the way, it's bad enough trying to get anywhere, but to drive to Cornwall, you'd have to be insane, wouldn't you?
You can guarantee there's probably going to be a traffic accident as well. Always the way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm betting it's going to take him at least 7 hours. And I mean, luckily for him, he doesn't have any children. But 7 hours in a car with his wife and a dog, and the dog's mad.
Yeah, that's very true. I think I'd be more inclined to take a short flight to somewhere in Europe, I have to say.
I know, seriously. Nicola, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Nicola Whittaker, Associate Director of HR at a Global Employment Law Consultancy. Even she thinks Kevin O'Sullivan's gone insane, right? We're going to talk to him shortly. He's on his way to Cornwall on the busiest Friday of all time. What's he thinking? Mark Dolan coming up as well. How about this? One from Pam. I do not understand why these illegals arrive on our shores. They need to be on a crash course given the basics of our laws, the way we treat women. If they break these laws, they will be deported. Well, if only we could deport them. Nobody seems to be able to deport them. I don't know why. This is Talk. Back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Coming up to 10 minutes to 10. The one here coming up from Neil in Dundee. This is going to be a long 4 years of a tax everything that moves Labour government. I know a lot of ordinary people moving to Dubai and other places to escape the madness. Neil's in Dundee, which is a very fine place indeed. In order to live within the law, citizens need to know what the law is, says Cliff in Berkshire. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Got loads of great messages coming in. Let me tell you this, though. It's a voice note, first of all, from Karen on the Notting Hill Carnival.
Hi Mike, it's Karen from Peterborough here. After hearing that there are safe spaces in the Notting Hill Carnival for women to go if they've been sexually assaulted, I can't help but feel that the Carnival is a massive safe space for the people that do the sexual assaulting. And, you know, judging by the amount of boarded up houses along the route, clearly there are no safe spaces for the residents.
Yeah, I mean, that is the problem. If you live in Notting Hill, it must be an absolute nightmare. Every single year, you have to board up the front. Because if you don't board up the front of your house, basically people will use it as a toilet, people will use it as a space for all kinds of ghastly stuff that might go on. And it's frankly a time when you have to evacuate your own house from your own street because all these horrible, ghastly individuals are coming down and ruining it all. I mean, that's the problem. And every single year it's the same thing. We're going to talk to Kevin O'Sullivan in a minute. He's making a trip today from London to Cornwall, which is on the same day as 3 million other people try to get from point A to point B because it's the worst ever day for travelling, bank holiday traffic. Meanwhile, if you are of an opinion that you like a bit of music and a bit of fun and a bit of family entertainment, you could do worse than go to Carfest, which is going on this weekend. It's kicked off this morning, actually. Chris Evans from Virgin was down in Winchester, not far from Winchester in Hampshire, at the Carfest Centre, basically doing his show. Here's a video from Chris.
It's the first day of Carfest 2025, and it's our last ever Carfest at Lovestoke Park Farm. This is the moment, the only moment in the whole weekend I can just get around my own festival and see it all, and it's amazing. So let's have a look. This is the biggest open space in the festival because we'll need the most room to get tens of thousands of people here. And there's the main stages. Later, zoom in, Owen, go on, off you go, boom, da 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 da. Here's the track, and me and Owen are driving around the track on our own at 6 o'clock in the morning. Electric, and you got Land Rover. We have an OVW Caravelle. I think we need one of these. The repairs on our Caravellas cost more than one of these over the last 5 years. Look at that. It's massive, and you can still get a day ticket. Bring yourself. Carfest.org.
Imagine that, the last Carfest in that particular place. I'm going to pop down there tomorrow and see what's going on. So if you fancy it, it's not far from Winchester, basically down the M3. If you want to go, it's great. It's a great event, and they've got some fantastic acts actually this year as well. The Boomtown Rats are playing. Bob Geldof, amongst others. Madness, I think, as well. Travis playing. I mean, there's all sorts going on. It's all fantastic stuff. Let's start to call Kevin O'Sullivan if he's around. Is he there? Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here.
Very good morning to you, man.
Yeah,
now,
hello,
listen, it's been suggested to me that you have made the craziest decision of all of the crazy decisions you've made in your life, that you're going to join 3 million other people and drive on the roads today to try and get to Cornwall. What's going on?
Well, you're going to Carfest, Chris Evans' Carfest tomorrow. I'm going to my own Carfest today. 3 million of us heading west. Look, the thing is, anybody who's ever worked with me, you included, I always glaze over about traffic stories. I'm not very interested in them. I don't pay any attention. I should have done. So why am I doing this today? Because I didn't really realise it was the worst day of the entire year to travel. So,
also, you're going to like the hardest part of Britain to get to. You know, if you drove to John O'Groats, you'd get there sooner. The worst place in the world to get to is Cornwall in the middle of the summer.
Well, my wife Henrietta and I were thinking of we're going to go to the M4, M5, obviously. Yes. All the way down to Exeter and then across. We're thinking of walking because we think it'll be faster than a car. So a pretty daunting prospect ahead, but I'm going to sort of check in with Talk. I'm hoping there'll be no story, but if the traffic's as bad as the pictures are showing there, I'll be checking in and telling everyone about my nightmare.
Now, have you got any tips? I mean, what do you take with you in the car, for example? You've got the crazed Chasbo, the dog.
Yeah, the dog.
With
the
you,
dog.
right?
Yeah.
So presumably you have to stop every so often and let him out for a pee.
That's right, but don't think that's going to present much of a problem because I think we'll be starting all the way to Cornwall. So, I mean, the worst time I've done this journey a fair few times. I guess the worst time I've ever done it in is about 7 hours. I think it could be worse today.
Yeah,
so,
I think it will be. And the last time you and I spoke about driving, you got yourself involved in a bit of a collision with a scooter driver, didn't you? And a bit of road rage going on.
Well, I think I was racing to meet you. We were going to do our podcast, and one of the tube lines was down, so I got my wife to drive me to the Jubilee line. And just as I was parking, some guy sort of like on a motorbike drove straight into us. So I had a massive he got out the car to have a fight with me, and I wasn't in a very good mood. So I leapt out of the car and I said, if you fancy it, come on. Anyway, he said, well, just don't do it again. And then he drove off. Right. I've got a little scratch to show for it, but there you go.
Yeah, brilliant. And any other tips? Do you eat food while you drive, or do you stop for food? What do you do?
I think we got some sort of picnic type food. I guess at some point we'll stop at service station and get some sandwiches. It's all very exciting. I can hardly wait.
Yes. I mean, it sounds amazing. And also, I mean, you've been married a long time, and even before that, you've known each other terribly long. I mean, do you sit for long periods of time and just not speak to each other? Do you obviously you'll have talk on, presumably, right?
Of course, yeah. I'll be listening to Mark Dolan and Ian Collins and all the gang. No, my wife and I are a classic couple in the car. We just argue and fight all the time. So that will at least alleviate some of the boredom, the furious growls that Henrietta and I will be having all the way down to Cornwall.
Yeah, I mean, when I would end up driving the kids and dogs and various, women in the car, and I just end up getting driven crazy. And sort of just my answer to everything is just to put my foot on the accelerator and drive really fast, because that apparently solves the problem.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm going to have the opportunity to do that.
No.
I know what's going to happen, Mike. I'm going to hit the M4. We're going to hit some traffic, and within about 5 minutes, I'll be going, "Why are we going on?"
And you'll be that'll be Brentford, right? Before you even get to the Heathrow Airport. Anyway, let's have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you when you get back. We shall miss you. Thank you very much indeed. Kevin O'Sullivan, along with 3 million other people, believe it or not, taking to the road today to go to Cornwall. What a complete maniac. 7 hours he's going to take, minimum. It could be 9 hours, but he'll be listening, of course, to the output here from Talk. And I'm delighted to say one of the people he'll be listening to, if he gets in the car soon, will be Mark Dolan. A man that I haven't seen for ages. Good morning to you.
MG.
So great to see you back.
It is a thrill to see you. Let me tell you that you have become Britain's most compelling broadcaster.
Well, that's very kind.
You've taken over the airwaves, and all we're going to do is pick up the baton at 10, because there is so much to talk about. And, you're not one to gloat, and I'm not one to gloat. But I will adopt the line, I hate to say, I told you so.
Yes.
Because it's just over a year since that fateful election result. And, Mike,
how
yes.
bloody awful are they?
Oh, my God. I mean, look, the Tories were a disaster.
They
right?
were.
And you made that a point of your programmes for months, if not years.
Yeah.
But we are now paying the price for the punishment beating of the Tories.
It's true.
With this majority Labour government, we're going to talk about how bad things are. The problem I've got, Mike, is, and you're an optimist, I'm an optimist, how much of a country will be left to govern in 4 years' time?
I know. And how useless